money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
A dead iPod is remembered as expensive. It's the Onion Radio News. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Despite heroic efforts at resuscitation, a third-generation 30-gigabyte iPod, serial number AP356372, was pronounced dead early this morning at the age of 2. The iPod's closest companion, Sarah Zartman, says she'll never forget the great music it used to play, nor will she forget the nearly $500 price tag.
I'll remember those 3,500 songs as long as I live. That iPod was convenient, portable, and really pricey.
Zartman added that had she known the iPod's lithium-ion battery would have such a short lifespan, she might have spent more time listening to it. AP356372 is survived by a BlackBerry. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You are invited to join us here on the radio. You can take control of the airwaves and bring up anything that you want. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Tyler.
And so, nobody, it's actually your first time back on the air. Coming up, though, Tyler, you want to talk about China and something going on over there with Disney, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
But nobody,
that can't be good.
Yeah, it's your first time back on the air since Monday, and so Tuesday was the primary election here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I know some of our listeners have been following. They're curious to know how the hosts of the show are doing with their political campaigns. You, of course, were running for governor here in New Hampshire.
Yep, I am now the former future governor.
Sadly, you did not win against the incumbent, Chris Sununu, His Excellency, who has been ruling the state with an iron fist. Well, I guess not as iron as it could be. It could be bad like New York or California.
Yeah, I mean, we got to stay balanced on Sununu, I think. I mean, he's done some awful things, but he's also
he has a good side.
Vetoed a lot of taxes and a lot of
bad gun laws.
Gun laws, yeah, that's another one.
And he did pass decriminalization of cannabis back in 2017. So, I mean, he's not been all bad, but the way he's handled this COVID thing has been pretty awful. And he is totally pandering to the fearmongers, even though on one hand he's pandering to the fearmongers, but on the other hand there's very little of the in the way of enforcement. So there's a lot of threats, but a lot of smoke, but not a lot of fire, and that's a good thing. I'm glad that people aren't being arrested, but they're still creating this sort of mentality that all this stuff is legal, what they're doing, and I believe that it is not legal. What they're doing.
if they miswrote the smoking in restaurants law such that the law required you to post no smoking signs but didn't require you to enforce them, then I'd post the no smoking signs and I'd put an ashtray under each one as a restaurateur and say, we had to put these signs up. Sorry about that. Hope they don't bother you too much.
Right. There's strong suggestions.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I'd counter that with a strong suggestion. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And Tyler, you were just telling me just before the show that today you decided you were going to whip off the mask and just start going around to different businesses without it, even though in Keene there's a supposed city ordinance about that.
Right, yeah. Enough is enough. I decided that I was just going to go in and see what happens, and I went to 3 different locations today. I don't want to name them, but I would say at every single location I went to, it was totally fine. Yep. Nobody gave me any, even so much as a dirty eye. I went to a coffee shop the other day before I had decided to do this, and I ripped my mask off as soon as I came outside, and a couple people were there, and they were laughing, and they go, "Yeah, man, I know." And I was like, this is so dumb. And the people that are doing it, they're just doing it to follow along. And,
How many do you think are? Okay, because this is the one thing that it's hard to get a real hold on because you can't judge somebody because they have a mask on.
Right.
Because they could have the mask on because they literally are living in fear, but yet still feel like they need to go out. Of course, there's those who just won't come out of their house. We don't see them.
Right.
But so they're either living in fear and they really believe all the propaganda or some amount of it, or there's the people that, like you're talking about, that they're doing it because they don't want to get looked askance. They don't want their neighbors to talk about them.
They don't want to face confrontation.
And they don't want to be confronted by anybody, whether it be the store employees or whether it be somebody else from, the average public or whatever. They just don't have time for it. They're not interested in it. So they put on the mask and they just go through with whatever they need to get done. So it's hard to really break down. You can't just glance at somebody and say, oh, well, they believe this. And how would we find that out?
Well, I mean, how I find that out is to talk to them. Just say something like, how many people do you know that are sick? And just see how they respond. If they're thoughtful in response to that, then I think there's a chance for them. If they just start calling me names, I've parked up the wrong tree.
Yeah. I actually had in one of my classes in college this week, we had a discussion about
online class.
Yeah, I'm fully online. Some students can go in, but we were talking about how a lot of people were upset.
Your kind.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about how a lot of people were upset that the tuition that they're paying is almost identical, but they're not getting the full college experience, which that's a totally valid gripe.
Right.
And as that conversation was going, I decided that I was going to try and gauge the room, and I wanted to ask them, I go, hey guys, so, we can talk about how bad COVID is, but I think we all kind of understand that it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be, and it might be the government's reaction that's really causing the problem. And it's astonishing to me that we'll have this discussion, but nobody wants to bring up government overreach. And I was kind of shocked to find that the class was split about 50-50. There were some people that were on my side for sure, some of these college kids, but a lot of them were like, well, it's for safety, and my grandmother got COVID, and et cetera, et cetera. And and so it makes me wonder if a college campus is that way and it's about 50-50, then the general population, it's really got to be less, of these people that are just really
into it. Because the students are more indoctrinated, you think?
Well,
more
I think
far.
colleges are just like, progressive training camps, essentially.
How big's the class?
I want to say about 22, 25 people.
Okay.
Which is not a great sample
size.
But...
Still interesting nonetheless. I mean, it's interesting to get any kind of feedback from people about
this.
A
lot of students are hurting too. I've seen, I was seeing pictures of a dorm room yesterday where the window just had these big signs that say, "I want to die."
Whoa,
that's rough.
Is that local or just somewhere else?
I don't know where it was, but it was apparently somebody who has been locked down in that dorm room for quite a while.
Oh, yeah, because that's what the colleges are doing, I think, with students. Some of the colleges with students who are testing positive, they're quarantining them.
Yeah, which is miserable.
They're not allowed to go home. They're only allowed to stay in this one little cell. I mean, effectively, these dorm rooms aren't much larger than a jail cell.
No,
they're in solitary confinement, just like I was for a while, and I can understand that. After
That's
12
torture.
days,
That's
even in 12 days in solitary confinement, I was looking for a hand grenade to jump on.
And as I was out today too, one thing that I was definitely looking for was other people without a mask on, kind of hoping that I could get that nod where you look at each other and you're like, all right, we're doing the right thing. There was only one other guy in all three of these locations that didn't have a mask on, and he looked a lot like me, right? Like, middle-aged male, he had a beard, looked like he didn't really care what else was going on. And it made me wonder too, because it's like, when you see a white male, doing whatever he wants to, especially with the left, they look at it and they go, oh, he's just being arrogant and he's just being a jerk and he's being selfish, I'd love to see like a little old lady or just like, like a young girl go out and just do this defiantly, because who's going to tell them that they're being arrogant or who being a jerk, So hopefully,
of course, nobody
as we
did
go
say.
forward,
no one said anything to you anyway, and you were out and about.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience, by the way, throughout the last 6 or 7 months, however long this has been. Is no one has said anything to me personally about this. The only encounter I had was the one lady at the mailbox store. I didn't even see her because she just sort of yelled at me as she was walking out the door. door. I was in the middle of a conversation with the clerk. I didn't even get to turn around to see what she looked like. Again, she'd like swung the door open and just yelled on the way out. And this was after I had told the clerk, who had informed me that they were going to go to masks required in this mailbox store, which is a locally owned store. And so I'm not going to just like keep barging in there on their customer. And I'm like, that's fine. I'll wait outside. You can bring me because they offered to bring me my mail outside. But I had explained to her, I was just telling her like, hey, I've got a religious objection to wearing this mask. And the woman walking out the door just yells at the top of her lungs, "Ha! A religious exemption!" as she just walks out. That's the only thing that's happened. The only encounter, and it wasn't even really an encounter. It was like a drive-by attack.
And that's so sad, too, because I feel like this nation was founded on this idea of religious freedom and religious tolerance, and that should be a really important thing. But
It was, and I think that to some extent the right has done us a big disservice in that area, in that they're big on religious freedom for Christians. They're not so big on religious freedom for other folks. And the reason that we tolerate the package deal of free speech is the trade-off for you being able to say what you want to say is I got to be able to say what I want to say.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you take away the quid pro quo and people don't want to play anymore.
We'll continue. Right. Your thoughts are welcome. If you want to join us, the toll-free number, 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
Maxwell, he was a runaway to rescue, great disposition. About 9 years ago, he was scratching a lot, and he started losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to the chicken. Another vet said, it's the grain. Third vet, she says it's the weather, something in the air. And then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. I had been listening to these Dynavite ads, hearing about different stories of different people, and it just clicked. I got my first 90-day supply, and it took a grand total of 2 weeks. And the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Dynavite is nutrition.
And Maxwell loves it. Now he's close to 10. And the Dynavite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
Dynavite for life. You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
And he's a spectacular dog.
DINOVITE.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org. News from news.bitcoin.com. U.S. Postal Service files a patent for new blockchain voting method. Warren Buffett changes his opinion on gold. Maybe Bitcoin is next. $6 billion Akon cryptocurrency city underway. Former Prudential CEO says now's the time to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies. Getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com. Subscribe to Bitcoin.com's YouTube channel too.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air.
When you AMP Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. The toll-free number where you can join us on the radio to bring up anything you want is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. We're talking about walking around without a mask. Tyler did it for the first time for the whole day today, and it was, would you say it was liberating, Tyler?
It was liberating. It took a lot of weight off my shoulders.
Felt better? You didn't have to like breathe into this crazy thing?
They don't look that heavy. I mean, I don't wear them at all. But
no, but they frustrate you, you know?
Yeah.
So we can talk more about that. Your calls and thoughts are welcome as well. Plus, Ethereum smart contracts enable Intercoin to be traded against Bitcoin, Ethereum, as well as a growing set of tokens pegged to your favorite fiat currency. Intercoin can be used to turn these into virtual versions of Bitcoin or USD that have all the advanced features of Intercoin community currencies. They'd finally be spendable in everyday payments, be programmable, instantly convertible, generate analytics, and more. When done, people can cash out back into the original versions. Think of Intercoin as a decentralized layer 2 solution that isn't controlled by anyone. Intercoin is attempting to regain some of our freedoms that are threatened on the internet and in meat space, and we think that's important here on Free Talk Live. So we accepted $40,000 worth of Intercoin tokens from Intercoin Incorporated for advertising. If you think freedom is important too, check out Intercoin at intercoin.org. You can invest in this project and potentially make big gains, or just be involved and perhaps shape its future. That's intercoin.org. Let's go to the phones here. We got David on the line in Arkansas. In Fort Smith, listening to KFPW. Go ahead, David. David, in Arkansas. Do we have David? David going once. David going twice. We're going to put David back on hold. Maybe there's some technical difficulties either on his phones and or on our board ops. And
open up, it's me, Dave. Dave's not here, man.
Cheech and Chong reference.
Yeah.
Classic.
So, so we're just kind of recapping the last few days of our lives here in beautiful Keene, New Hampshire, which is, of course, an activist centerpiece, crypto mecca, and our home. So, it's your first night on the show since you were running for election here in the Republican race for governor, and I just thought it would be worth it to bring you back on here and talk about that a little bit, because sadly you didn't defeat the incumbent.
I did not.
The Chris Sununu, His Excellency, who has been again ruling over everybody in this COVID thing, and sadly the other lady also didn't defeat him either. So he raked in about 89.5% or something like that.
He raked in quite a high percentage, and there were some spurious reasons that I heard from some people. Like one person said, I didn't want to split the vote and let the Democrat get in, and
that's not how primary works.
That's not how any of this works, bro.
Wow.
But yeah, it was unfortunate. It was somewhat unsurprising because my ability to campaign and communicate with people was stymied by a lot of it by the lockdowns. Pretty much
plus the
that
media
was my
ignored
audience.
you.
And
the media ignored you.
The media is not covering any dissenting voice. They're covering only the narrative they weren't heard.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Right. So it was a three-way race between you, Karen, a woman named Karen, a nice lady named Karen. And
she is, oh God, she was cursed with that name, no.
Yeah.
For the times.
It's true.
Yeah, bad timing.
I suppose she could have changed her name if she really wanted to.
I did.
And I don't think that's what hurt her, though. It's just people go with what they know. They go with the incumbent, and it's hard to unseat an incumbent.
Well, the incumbent has a lot in their favor. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's part of it. It's just
Momentum.
lazy. Yeah.
Yep.
I was really kind of expecting
Never-ending media coverage.
Even if no one knew about your campaign, I was just kind of hoping there'd be enough people that would go in and go, "Oh, nobody for governor? That's a great idea.
Me
Why has no one
too.
tried that before?"
See, the problem with that from a primary point of view is in a primary, you're saying, who do you want to represent your party against the other side?
Right.
And nobody says nobody there.
Yeah.
But if it was a matter of...
If you made it to the general, yeah.
It might be, it would be a good name to be in the general election as a libertarian.
Yeah,
with.
definitely.
And that may be what I go for next time is the libertarian nomination.
Yeah, nobody is still considering his options for 2022. Because here in New Hampshire, for listeners that aren't familiar, it's every 2 years the entire state government has a chance to get overturned. So all the state house, all the state senate. Oh wait, Senate's 2 years. All of them. The governor every 2 years.
Yeah,
so,
the mayor is 1 year, right?
No, the mayor is a 2-year term.
Oh, it is 2 years.
But the way it's staggered here in Keene, they have the mayoral and city elections the other years. So the odd years, and then the even years are the state elections. So literally, we're in an election season every single month.
I'm staggered by the number
Yeah,
of elections.
It's just constant. It never lets up. So you're considering what to do. If folks want to get behind your campaign, they still can because you're still you are planning on doing something else. You're just not sure exactly in which order.
Something is coming. I don't know exactly what it is. I might try to run as a Democrat next time
for governor.
And open for governor.
In 2022.
I may well make a run for mayor in between, but
or city council.
Or city council. Yeah, that's right, because the mayor actually, it turns out, is kind of a castrated position.
True. And also, if you run for the at-large council seat, there are 5 of those. So you would have to make it into the top 5 instead of just the top 1.
Or I could find somebody else who wants to change their name to nobody for a couple years and hand them over the website and what I've managed to accumulate and say, yeah, you do it for a while, because there's a certain awkwardness to being named nobody, and there's certain awkwardness to being who I am, and maybe somebody else could make a better job of carrying that torch. So if anybody out there in the real world has interest in commenting on that, I'd be delighted to hear about it either here or at electnobody.com. That's electnobody.com.
Right. And you also have a Telegram chat room that's connected there that folks can get into and connect directly with you and other supporters.
All of my other social media is available from the website. So if you remember electnobody.com, you're going to find me.
Excellent. So you have yet to deliver an endorsement for the remainder of the election, but I know that you're looking to talk with Karen about a possible co-endorsement of another candidate. I don't think we should say anything more than that for now, but nobody's not done at this point.
Well, I will say that unless there are significant changes in the COVID response, that Mr. Sununu will not be getting my endorsement.
And I suspect the Democrat won't be getting your endorsement either.
I would be very surprised if any Democrat even bothered to try to earn it. But there are exceptions. We've got Democrats in our Reopen NH group. So
is that right?
Yeah.
That's refreshing.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the original distrust of Big Pharma that I was hearing always came from the left. The thing is, they're so terrified of Trump that anything he says, the opposite must be true.
But yet they're going to accept a vaccine from Trump? That seems a little screwy.
Well, that's the thing. But he's never done a full-throated call for liberty, but he's dropped enough hints that he's not crazy about what they're doing that I think some people on the left reject any question of the COVID thing because they see it as pro-Trump.
I mean, it's hard to know what these governors are going to do or anyone at the state level just because you never know when they're going to toe the party line and when they're actually going to go based on their conscience, you know?
And you don't know if Epstein had pictures of them because Epstein didn't kill
that
himself.
matters, yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, I hear a thing or two about these governors from time to time, and the South Dakota one seems kind of decent, at least on the whole COVID thing.
They've repealed all this nonsense.
I don't even know if they went into the nonsense in the first place there. More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need. A WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
Free Talk Live is aired on nearly 200 radio stations throughout the week, and we've been doing this for almost 18 years. You can call in any evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern to talk about whatever's on your mind. Sure, you can waste your time on Facebook and reach dozens of surly posters, or you can call in with your issue and reach 3 surly hosts. Oh, and nearly 500,000 weekly listeners. The number is 1-855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, as in freedom.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. LRN.FM now has a Discord. Discord is a free text and voice chat platform, and we now have our own server with a bunch of channels at discord.lrn.fm. You can join other listeners as they chat about various things during our live shows, or anytime, day or night. Discord software is available cross-platform, so you can have it on whatever device you want and take your chats anywhere. Join our Discord at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. Inviting you to join us here. Toll-free number, 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, we'll talk about China and Disney in a kind of an ugly situation. We'll get into that coming up here. Ian, Nobody, and Tyler in the studio. The toll-free number for you, if you want to join us, is 855-450-FREE like freedom. And also, Free Talk Live is brought to you by Divvy. It is a newer, easy-to-use cryptocurrency that we've been promoting here on Free Talk Live since about a year ago. And from this year, from mid-March to mid-July, Divvy went up 10x. More than that, actually, a little bit more. And so obviously they'd like to see Divvy continue to go up in value, and that's certainly the intention behind the programmers there. But we can't predict what the future is going to hold. But that said, Free Talk Live is happy with our decision to hook up with Divvy a year ago. You can go to divvyproject.org and begin earning Divvy by starting up a masternode, or you can stake Divvy, and there's even a lottery for people who stake Divvy. Learn more at divvyproject.org, divvyproject.org. We go. We're going to try David one more time here in Arkansas. My board op says they've fixed his line. David, are you with us, listening in Fort Smith?
I am here.
We have you now. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I tell you what. I just realized what it feels like to be on the ground when the search plane flies over and you're waving your arms saying, I'm here, I'm here.
Yeah, we picked you up before and we couldn't hear you. It sounds like you could hear us, but we got you now, Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to nominate Tyler for Hero of the Day.
All right.
Oh, wow.
What was that?
For Hero of the Day. He's nominating Tyler.
Nice.
Oh, is it because of the mask thing?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, welcome to the party, pal. On
yeah. Like I said, it felt
First
good.
time caller.
Yeah, okay. So what's going on down there in Arkansas, man? I mean, are people wearing masks all over the place, or is it like mostly not wearing masks? What do you see out there in Fort Smith?
Oh, it depends on where you are. If you're in a retail store, then, yeah, the vast majority of people are wearing masks. If you go to the dirt track races, nobody's wearing one.
Interesting. Now, at the retail store, is there any kind of threat by the government that you have to wear a mask, or is it just the stores are putting policies into place because that's what they do?
No, we have a mandate from our governor.
From the governor?
From the governor that everyone is to wear a mask indoors and in public.
In public?
See, Ian looks all surprised, and I'm thinking Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas. I'm not surprised in the least bit.
Yeah, Asa Hutchinson. He's a Republican governor. Anyway, but here's the thing about the mandate. I work in the management of a retail store, and we posted on our door. We did not post that everyone is required to wear a mask when they come in.
So what did you
walk
post?
Up to many businesses, and they say everyone must wear a mask upon entry. But that is not true if the mandate itself has exemptions. So not everyone is required.
That's right.
Because there are exemptions.
Are you working, you don't have to say where, but are you working in like a locally owned shop, or is this some level of corporate kind of regional or national?
Locally owned.
Okay, so that's good. So you have more ability to make a decision like that in a locally owned place, whereas a lot of these corporate chains, they're just going ahead and pretending like it's the law. They're pretending like it applies to everyone, and But nonetheless, as you discovered today, Tyler, you just took your mask off and you didn't go into you didn't go in anywhere with a mask on. You were completely mask free today. You had no issues whatsoever, and that's in a town where there is a so-called mask mandate,
and the most liberal town in New Hampshire.
One of them,
probably one of the most frightened towns in New Hampshire right now.
So, David, I'm glad that you guys are, coming at it from a more thoughtful perspective, and I imagine you're completely leaving every customer alone and not, giving them any kind of hassle.
So, David,
and here's the thing: even I've got two children that work for Walmart in a retail store for Walmart, and they softened their stance. Now, it still says people must wear a mask upon entry, but they don't ask why someone's not wearing one if they come in without one.
It's none of their business.
Right.
I
was going to ask you, David, since you work at a store,
yes, sir.
What's the compliance level at? Just ballparking it. Like, would you say that almost everyone's wearing a mask?
You mean in the store specifically?
In the store specifically, yeah. Or are there some people that... Go ahead.
Most are compliant, but we see people that come in without them.
Mm-hmm.
But and we don't ask them.
Yeah, good.
Do you know a lot of sick people?
It's because we can't.
Ask again.
Do you know a lot of sick people, sir?
Do I know? Oh, I tested positive for COVID.
Okay, but did you get sick? Because you got it.
That is different.
Having antibodies in your blood is hardly. You did get sick.
Yeah, I was sick.
How sick were you?
For 7 to 8 days.
Okay.
Mild to moderate symptoms.
Yeah.
Were you hospitalized?
And no.
Okay.
No, I isolated at home. Had a fever Monday morning. Policy at work is if you have fever, don't come to work.
Right.
And so I went and got tested. Got my results on Wednesday. But I asked my wife. I said, "Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to isolate in the bedroom and you can slide toast under the door?" and her response was, "Well, I just assume if we're going to get it, let's all get it. And be done with it." And we had 3 college-age students home because they weren't in school.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife ended up with it, my daughter, one of my sons, and the other son, the 20-year-old, nothing. Not a symptom. He's military. He got tested 3 times. They get their results immediately. Never tested positive.
Interesting. Yeah. In the home with a full family of sick people.
Yeah.
And he didn't catch it.
At least you guys have herd immunity now.
Yeah. But
I heard.
Here's something that people should know is that, and this is the reason that I'm going to assume, I want to say I know that Walmart softened their stance on asking people. We had someone in our store a couple of years ago that had an animal in the store. Okay, the animal was a pit bull, and it was growling, had kind of an aggressive stance. The customer had the dog restrained. And so our question was, can we ask them to take the dog outside? So I get on the computer, I'm doing research. We even call the Department of Labor. Now we're talking federal law, or Americans with Disabilities Act, and service animals.
Was the person claiming that this was a service animal?
That's the thing. They don't have to claim it because now you're getting into HIPAA laws where you're asking them to reveal medical information.
You can't ask people about their medical history or their medical records.
I don't know. Okay. Well, I mean, look, you did the research, but just because if you ask somebody, is that a service animal, doesn't mean that you're asking them for their medical records. You're just asking them if it's a service animal or not.
But under the circumstance,
but they have to. A person with a service animal, they have to get a certificate for a service animal. They don't have to show it to anybody.
That's correct. They don't have to show it. But just asking the question as to whether or not it is a service animal, at the very least, may result in them saying no. May result in them being honest and saying no, in which case you can say, we'd like you to leave the store, please.
Yeah, but it's just like, though, asking someone in their age on an interview.
Oh, yeah, they can lie. I mean, they absolutely can.
Well, they could lie, but also it's heavily discouraged. You're really not supposed to be asking people questions like that in a business setting.
And so that was our guidance was, no, don't ask them. Now, if the dog's being aggressive and the person doesn't have the dog properly restrained, I mean, if you got a 90-pound lady with a 100-pound pit bull,
right?
I mean, you can ask them both to leave the store.
Sure.
And tell them, hey, we'll make an accommodation for you at another time.
That's definitely true. I mean, even if it is a service animal, you can tell the person that you don't want them in the store, period. And like you said, you're trying to be nice, give them some sort of curbside service or something like that. Look, your dog is scaring our customers. Most people, when they have a service animal, they are trained to be well behaved, and you don't have those problems. So I'm guessing this was not a service animal.
Oh, but the thing is, you don't have to have a trained service animal.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
You don't have to show records that a service animal has been to any kind of obedience.
Yep, that's true.
But
that's
all
true.
the ADA requires.
My brother's got a little Chihuahua. Chihuahua died, and he's still well without it.
David, I want to say thank you, man, for the call tonight. I definitely appreciate the look inside of retail there, what's going on the ground in Arkansas. Thanks for sharing that. There's more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Are you afraid to go to the mailbox because of letter after letter from the IRS? Are they stacking on more and more penalties and interest? By now, you know the problem won't go away on its own. Don't let the IRS chase you to your grave with penalties and interest and liens and levies. You need real help now. I'm Dan Pilla. I wrote the book on tax debt settlement, and I help thousands of people solve tax problems they thought couldn't be solved. I can help you too. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, danpilla.com. That's danpilla.com. danpilla.com.
Are you ready for what's next? It's likely coming. More food shortages, power outages, grocery stores closed, social unrest. Ask yourself, do you have enough food and supplies on hand to last at least 30 days? Most Americans do not, but you can. Avoid the panic of the last-minute rush. Order your 4-week supply of emergency food today from mypatriotsupply.com. Starvation or dependency on the government are your only alternatives. Avoid those and the pain of being unprepared. Go to mypatriotsupply.com right now. Build your emergency food supply with meals that last up to 25 years in storage, shipped discreetly to your door. Folks that know what's coming are using today to prepare. There's time for you to do the same. That's mypatriotsupply.com, the original Patriot Preparedness Company. mypatriotsupply.com.
With a MECTEC carbine conversion unit, you can turn an XD family Glock or 1911 handgun into a carbine rifle in seconds and have it shipped right to your door, no FFL required. Now, MECTEC is excited to announce our pistol carbine conversion unit. More compact with a 12-inch barrel and an arm brace, proving once again that MECTEC is the world's most versatile handgun accessory. For a limited time, go to handgunconversions.com. That's handgunconversions.com and use coupon code RADIO to receive $35 off any carbine purchase.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. Do you have a WordPress website running WooCommerce and want to accept cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin SV? Now you can easily enable crypto payments from your customers by adding the AnyPay plugin to your WordPress site. Just visit anypayinc.com and set up your account by entering your cryptocurrency wallet addresses in the admin. Then enable the AnyPay plugin in your WooCommerce. That's it. Now your website takes crypto like Bitcoin thanks to anypayinc.com, anypayinc.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You bring up anything you want. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. I want to say thanks to Tom, who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. Tom contributes $10 a month to the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote, and it's a simple concept. It's a way for you to help us get Free Talk Live on more radio stations, bring more internet listeners on board. I love being on the radio because we reach people that aren't looking for us. If you're only an internet stream or a podcast, somebody has to be searching in order to find you. And here, when we're on in Fort Smith, or we're on in the other 100+ radio stations that we're on, 190+ that we're on, then there's all kinds of people that just kind of come across us because they're scanning the band. They just got in their car at the airport and turned on the radio and heard us for the first time. So if you appreciate that outreach that we do and you want to help get behind the show, do like Tom did. Join the AMP program. He did it at gold level, which is twice what we ask for. We ask $5 a month. Tom's doing 10. So thank you, Tom. Over at amp.freetalklive.com, you can use your credit card, debit card, PayPal, or Bitcoin BTC to get on board, and you get some cool perks and benefits for doing that. That's amp.freetalklive.com. We go to James in Arizona. James, you're on Free Talk Live.
I'm out.
Hello, James. James going once.
Hi, Tyler. I'd like to answer your question that I haven't got a chance to. And what a surprise that a nobody, Rich Paul, a megalomaniac like Paul Krugman, who he reminds me of, only wants to talk to people that agree with him.
No, I don't think that's true, but he's not here, so why don't you talk to Tyler?
Anyway, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm all ears, man. What's up?
Right now, I'm being trolled by a Free Talk Live listener. Can you hear my phone beeping on air?
No.
Okay, good. So the reason why I call, and it just so happens I was listening to TuneIn Radio one night on a Saturday, and it said station you might like, and it said Libertarian Radio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a libertarian. I'm like your loser friends that you're looking at right now.
Oh, no.
Like, I am a religious person and don't ever lie.
Okay.
Ever.
That's good.
Just like Tyler, I am one that believes in peace, love, and liberty, and I'm willing to put my life on the line for people that are denied it. Unlike the two people that you're looking at and yourself who think when you're fighting the man, you don't wear your mask in a grocery store. Wow, that's really freaking courageous of you.
Thanks.
To put another way, you're my zero, not my hero. But thanks. You're welcome.
Ah, shoot, man.
You're welcome.
That really...
I know you're just like Rich Paul. You want somebody to rub your balls, and then you get a rise, and then you're totally like that caller. Will give plenty of time to talk. But let me ask.
Yeah, what's the question?
Who I was listening to on another podcast, wear your effing mask. You know why he says that? Like me, I actually do know somebody that died of the COVID.
I'm sorry to hear
that.
Like
me, I do know. No, you don't. You don't give a crap about that. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
You're not an honorable kid. You're a stupid liar.
Okay.
Who hangs out with losers.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's not okay.
Oh, no, I'm just listening.
No,
you can keep going. I'm just trying to get to the question.
Why do doctors recommend you wear a mask? Well, let me backtrack before I ask the question. One can only imagine what the world would be like, especially in New York City, if like the government had the foresight to recommend that millions of people in New York City practice social distancing and wear masks. Because that's really like the worst place that's been hit by COVID in the United States of America. Now, imagine if everybody had worn masks beginning like in January 2020 in New York City, practice social distancing. Do you think?
I'm
think the pandemic.
He's letting you know he's still here because you just keep on going and going.
I know this is an achievement by you, Minister Freeman, a person who, by the way, Tyler called me a liar on the public airwaves for trolling me and doxing me, and then inventing a character.
Was there a question here somewhere?
Okay, Tyler, your friend right there that you're looking at is lucky I haven't broken his neck.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
He's a good Christian.
Yeah. And a libertarian, too.
Right. That's exactly why you're still alive.
So,
because I fear Jesus. Oh, Tyler, that's not a joke.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why your friends are still breathing is because I do fear a loving, just, and vengeful God.
So if you're libertarian, man, then answer me this. Why is it that you can't see the difference between people wearing a mask voluntarily in order to help like reduce spread of a virus and when the government cracks down?
You honestly think I need to have to answer that stupid question?
Well, yeah, because you're the one that's stating that you're a libertarian. I don't see it.
It's a matter of respect for other people.
Right, but the government's forcing me to do it, James.
Let me answer the question, you stupid loser.
Okay.
Because I'm not the government. I'm a fellow man who absolutely, positively cannot dispute the fact that masks do help prevent the spread of COVID.
I think that's disputable.
Even the data that I've seen says that masks' effectiveness is questionable at best.
Yeah, and there's places where they haven't been mandated. I haven't
seen a single study that definitively says that masks saves lives. I haven't seen a single study that says that. Please.
And you know what? Even if those studies, and thank you for the call tonight, James, I think.
That was fun.
Even if, if you enjoy being insulted is fun, then hey,
why
whatever
not?
floats your boat.
I know where he's coming from. He's coming from a really small place. And
it's true.
I get it.
It is true. He's certainly not coming from a place of freedom. Look, the whole idea that you're disrespecting people by not wearing a mask was sort of what he was getting at there towards the end of that call. And I disagree. Look, your fear does not, or my rights don't end where your fear begins.
Thank you.
Right?
That's a great way to put it.
And so the best thing I can do to respect my fellow man, the ones that I really have an appreciation for, which is the ones that care about freedom, is to exercise my freedom as much as I can.
Yep.
So in order that we can keep as much freedom as we possibly can. And that's why I was so happy when you said that you decided you weren't going to wear a mask anymore today, because it's one more person who is flipping to the old way of going about things where, hey, look, if you're really afraid, go ahead and stay home.
Let me tell you my thought process getting to there, too, because that might help James, too, if he actually even cares.
He does need help.
No, if he's even listening.
Please help him.
I started out really worried about this virus, and I took it very seriously, right? Like, I bought masks, I bought supplies, I even bought a gas mask. Like, I didn't know how bad it was going to get, right? And then as time went on, I understood that the virus is a real thing, and there are people that are suffering. And I knew guys that work in hospitals in the ICU that had been overwhelmed by patients in the beginning, right? This was a serious thing. But at a certain point, you start to see that this virus, the estimates, the data that we were looking at was overblown, right? We were expecting 22 million people to die in a year at the worst.
The government blew some data
Who
overblown?
knew?
Wow.
Yeah, who knew that they would even be capable of such a thing? But they did.
You mean politically connected doctors were saying things that benefited them and their authority?
And it's almost like the virus was beneficial to them because it was just another form of control anyway, right? So at a certain point, I started to realize that the importance doesn't lie in me wearing a mask, right? Me wearing a mask isn't really helping anyone. I don't go to old folks' homes. No. I don't go and like breathe around old people, and I understand the point in social distancing. I understand the point in washing your hands. I understand the point in not touching your face, right? What I don't understand is why does the government have to come down and make everybody wear a mask as if it's to me, it's security theater. It's all it is to make everyone feel better. But it's making everyone feel worse. And that's where I was today. I realized if somebody sees me without a mask and they realize that they have the urge to also not wear a mask, they should pay attention to that urge and they should think about it and they should realize, hey, you know what? This virus kills less people than cigarettes. It kills less people than cheeseburgers. Tuberculosis last year had similar numbers and we weren't acting this way.
Well, the counter argument to that, Tyler, would be that, well, you get to choose whether you have a cheeseburger. You don't get to choose the virus.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But like at the same time, the virus is nature, right? These cheeseburgers and stuff, this is stuff that's being peddled to us by corporations, right? If nature comes along and decides that it wants to wipe a part of us out, that's going to happen, right? If we all hunker down and hide from this, naturally occurring event, then what good are we, right? Like what if our ancestors had just said, oh, well, polio's a bad thing, so nobody ever do anything, ever. Right. No progress ever would have been made, right?
And we have had regression. You speak of progress. This year has been a regressive year. I mean, from beginning to end. Industries are losing big time.
Yep.
Their employers are getting fired. Employees are being laid off. Many of them are never going to come back. Revenue, just looking at our industry, the radio industry, revenue at these major radio companies like what used to be known as Clear Channel, now it's called iHeartMedia, Saga Communications. I could go down the list. All these companies down 40, 50, 60%. In their revenue. Radio stations having a tough time collecting, if they'd sold ads prior to COVID, like let's say they sold a 6-month contract, but they didn't collect it all up front because that's not usually the way it's done. You collect a month and then a month and then a month. And now they're going to knock on a door and nobody wants to send them any money anymore, right? Like they're even though they're under a contract, they're like, hey, I'm sorry.
Everyone's tightening their belts.
Right, we don't have it.
Right, and that's the thing. Let's think about all these people that committed suicide or lost their businesses. I say it almost every time I'm in the air because it's important. Those people matter. The virus, nobody caused that, right? But the shutdown, there are people that caused that, right? People that have names, like people that we voted for, allegedly. And it's ridiculous. And those victims of that kind of action, that's what we should be worried about.
The toll-free number tonight, 855-450, free like freedom. You can weigh in and join us. Hour number 2's next. This is Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Fires raging in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. In Oregon, more than 900,000 acres have burned in the last several days, more than a typical year.
Approximately 30,000 to 40,000 Oregonians have evacuated so far, and evacuations are ongoing. Please stay vigilant and listen to your local officials and firefighters.
Governor Kate Brown, who says there have been fatalities, but the exact number is not yet known. In Washington state, fires have scorched nearly 937 square miles just this week. Governor Jay Inslee has declared a state of emergency. A new round of coronavirus aid has failed in a procedural vote in the Senate.
Everybody pretty much knew which direction this was going to go. This was not a straight up or down vote on coronavirus relief. This was an effort to break a filibuster. Democrats were filibustering this piece of legislation. You need 60 votes to crack a filibuster. The vote today was 52 to 47. Even though they needed 60 yeas for this, there were questions as to whether or not Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell could coax at least 51 senators on his side of the aisle to vote yes. McConnell was coy yesterday that he may not have had 51 GOP votes then, but he had them today, 52.
Fox's Chad Perkam. It's not clear what happens next with the measure. A panel of 3 federal judges has ruled President Trump's order to exclude people in the country illegally when redrawing congressional districts violates the law. President Trump continues to be on defense with a contrast in his public remarks about COVID-19 versus what he told journalist Bob Woodward in February.
So obviously, outwardly, I said it's a very serious problem. And it's always a serious problem. That doesn't mean I'm going to jump up and down in the air and start saying people are going to die, people are going to die. No, I'm not going to do that.
Democrats say the failure to disclose the seriousness of the virus has cost lives. America is listening to Fox News.
For over 20 years, millions of customers have trusted Blinds.com to update their homes. Because Blinds.com makes it easy to get custom blinds that'll give your windows a high-end look without the high-end price. Whether you like to DIY, need design help, or prefer measure and install services, they do it all with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. If you're nervous, know that Blinds.com has over 30,000 5-star customer reviews, and they guarantee the perfect fit for your windows, whether you do it yourself or have them do the whole installation.
Go to Blinds.com now to get this week's special savings on interior blinds, shades, shutters, and even outdoor shades. Plus, pay over 24 months at 0% APR on qualifying purchases with PayPal Credit Easy Payments through 9/17/2020.
As of March 1st, 2020, new PayPal credit accounts have a variable purchase APR of 25.49% that will vary with the market based on the prime rate. Minimum interest charge is $2, subject to credit approval. Visit Blinds.com/PayPal. Other rules and restrictions may apply.
A shortage of medical-grade masks and protective equipment was highlighted in the early days of the pandemic, and some say it hasn't improved much.
Months after the coronavirus ravaged New York in March, healthcare workers and hospital officials say they still don't have enough adequate supplies of N95 respirator masks or other protective gear. White House officials say the U.S. has all the medical supplies needed to fight COVID-19, but the Associated Press reports that hospital administrators say they can't get as many masks as they want. The FDA has also included N95s on its most recent medical supplies shortage list. Manufacturers say the Trump administration hasn't made the long-term investments they need in order to ramp up to full capacity, but the head of FEMA's Supply Chain Stabilization Task Force denies there are shortages. In New York, Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
A protest leader in Belarus claims she was threatened with death after security officers grabbed her from the street.
Belarusian opposition leader Maria Kolesnikova saying security officers put a bag over her head.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
A dying Chevron executive is excited to one day become oil. A man wearing red glasses and pink pants is probably Dutch or something, and the report of a popular fish's death is starting to get around the tank.
This is the Onion Week in Review. The nation was once again wowed this week by the feats of very strong little boy Michael Sartinsky, who, after removing his t-shirt to better display his impressive physique, deadlifted an entire frozen turkey over his head and held it aloft for 3 full seconds. The latest demonstration of the pint-sized muscle man's almost inhuman abilities comes on the heels of multiple accomplishments involving incredible displays of speed, strength, and endurance. Over the past 4 months alone, Sartinsky cleared the 3-foot chasm between his brother's bed and his own, beat his fully grown Uncle Scott in a foot race, and threw a tennis ball clear onto the roof of his 2-story house.
Pound for pound, I honestly don't think there's a stronger boy on earth. Have you felt his muscles? They're like solid rocks.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour of the program. As always, you are invited to join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Tonight it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Tyler.
We're going to go into your phone calls and your thoughts. Also, I do want to say congratulations to our other co-host, Aria DiMezzo. We hadn't really known for sure. Last night we kind of had a feeling that it was going to go in this direction, and it has. She has been confirmed. It's official. Aria DiMezzo, co-host here on Free Talk Live, and trans activist, anarchist, the high priestess of the Reformed Satanic Church here in Keene, is going to be on the ballot as the candidate for the Republicans for Cheshire County Sheriff of New Hampshire.
Woo!
Yeah.
Wow.
It's real.
I'm trying to remember if I bet her anything on that race.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, if she doesn't remember either, then you're in the clear.
One thing I want to say, being in New Hampshire for only 2 years, if anyone's thinking about moving to New Hampshire, I already know several people that were on ballots in different districts, right, after just 2 years.
Right,
it's
and you
really
barely
cool.
know anyone.
Right,
really.
yeah, exactly. So
you've kind of kept to yourself up until this year, right?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool to be able to actually know people on the ballot. That most people can't say they know anybody.
Right,
on
you
the
feel
ballot.
really connected to democracy here in New Hampshire.
I mean, it still sucks. Democracy is
Right.
still terrible, but at least we have people running who are proponents of the ideas of liberty, and that's
Right, which is
useful.
important, definitely.
The worst kind of democracy is the one where only your enemies are permitted to participate.
Yeah.
Let's continue here. We've got Steve. He's in Fort Smith, Arkansas as well, listening to KFPW. Go ahead, Steve.
How you guys doing?
Hey, Steve, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm really excited that was the second caller besides myself that's called in from Fort Smith. So
Yeah.
in the last couple of weeks. So I've called several times and talked to you guys, but
I recall.
The dude from Arizona, he is a real good example of a Christian.
Yeah, 'cause totally. Jesus would totally call and threaten somebody's life.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that he needs to probably look in the mirror and realize that you're not gonna put a Bible on the end of a stick and hit someone like Thor with it and get any result.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can disagree with what you guys say sometimes, and there are times when I do. But I found the show because I'm kind of in and out of my car a lot at work, and I listen to some of the conservative talk shows because I'm a conservative.
And
so
that's all that's on the radio, basically, with the exception of this show.
Yeah, liberals got the TV, conservatives got the radio.
That's true.
Right. Well, I listen to Seb Gorka and some of those guys, and I don't, like I've said before, those guys, Trump's got rainbows shooting out of his butt, and then you watch TV and he's the spawn of Satan. And so the truth is always somewhere
in between, yeah.
Right. But, I happen to get in the car. I get off work at 6. You guys' show was on. You've actually caused me to do a lot of research into the Libertarian Party. There are some things that I could really get behind.
Yeah.
There's some other things that, don't really agree with as a whole.
Like what? Pick one of those things.
Yeah, give us one thing to change your mind on.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of decriminalizing drugs.
Interesting.
And not to say that maybe like for marijuana and some of that stuff, I can maybe see that.
Do you think that people's lives are, drug addicts, like somebody that is just terribly addicted to heroin or something terrible like that? Do you think that spending 5 years in prison is going to make their life better?
Probably not, unless they had some kind of a program that would really help them. But here's my point.
Yeah.
I think that it's all situational. I think different people have different experiences. I'm 42 years old, never tried marijuana.
Okay.
Never wanted to. I've never had the urge to because
have you had a
I grew up
drink?
in a home. Yeah, I'll drink occasionally, but I've probably been drunk 5 times in my life.
Okay.
And I was in a fraternity and played football in college, so I had plenty of opportunities.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You could have, if you'd wanted to, killed yourself with alcohol legally.
Well, yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I choose to, I like to be kind of in control of what I'm doing.
I don't blame you.
So I don't like that. I've, been there where I didn't really remember everything from the night before, and I was like, that's not good. And whether you're strung out on heroin or so drunk that you black out, I think it's the same thing.
But the difference is, if you're strung out on heroin and you get caught with some heroin, you could go to prison. And if you're strung out on alcohol and you get caught with some alcohol, as long as you're not behind the wheel of a car, the worst case in most places is you're going to end up in the drunk tank for a night and then released the next morning.
I understand that, but the reason that I chose not to ever try drugs of any kind is because I grew up in a home where it was prevalent.
Yeah, you saw how bad it could be.
I saw how it affected our family.
Right.
I mean, my sister's been a meth addict for the last 15 years.
And the whole time it's been illegal.
In and out of jail. Do what?
My point is, if your sister's been a meth addict for 15 years, she's been illegally a meth addict for 15 years. You said in and out of jail.
The law didn't help.
It didn't help her. No, it didn't help her. But, she's stolen from our family.
And you know why, right?
Because she wants to get high again.
Yeah, and because it's expensive.
Well, let me give my position on this, because I spent 22 years going to a 12-step program for addicts and alcoholics, and the thing is, what they say there is that until somebody is ready to recover, you should just leave them alone.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean to overlook things like theft. If somebody's stealing, then prosecuting them for theft is not unreasonable. But if somebody is just having a hard time of it, and is, maybe they're not able to be present in their life for whatever reason, and so they're escaping into drugs, putting them in prison will generally, in my experience, make them worse. And I saw so many people come into AA because they just got arrested, and they're doing well and they're recovering and they're getting right with people and things are getting better for them, and then their charges catch up with them, and they find themselves in prison for a while. Because, the thing that got them going to AA in the first place is they got arrested. And when they come back, it's like they were buried in a pet cemetery. It's like the light inside of them is gone. And you can't work with them anymore because the addiction is a spiritual, I believe, malady, and it needs a spiritual solution. And you can't do that when the spirit has been extinguished by prison. And that's why I say no more prison. Let the leave it to the clergy and the doctors.
Well, it's also worth pointing out you can also get drugs in prison.
Oh
illegally.
Yeah, so we'd have to be locked down tighter than any prison if we're going to keep all the drugs out.
Right, and the thing for 3.5 years I worked at a 90-day residential treatment facility for boys 15 to 24, which I always thought was weird. You stick a 15-year-old in there with a 24-year-old man. And they're living in a cabin with 8 other dudes. But, yeah, I mean, it's just there's such different stages in their lives. But, I realized that a lot of the boys that came there is because they were court ordered to come there. And this wasn't like a state run. This was a privately run Christian 90-day treatment facility. I mean, we had Major League Baseball players' kids that were there. We had, owners of large companies that I won't name on the air.
Right.
But
all the people who will never have their kids get in real trouble for getting caught with drugs.
It's like $40,000 to send your kid there for 90 days, and we had kids that went through the program twice. And so, I'd been a youth minister out of college. I did that for a couple of years, and I did it some while I was in college. I'd gotten a job with Walmart, the evil empire, out of college, and I missed working with young people. And I've always had a soft spot for people that struggle with substance abuse because I was around it so much. That I went back to that.
Steve, if you want, you can hang on. We can continue the discussion about the war on drugs and how it is completely futile and counterproductive. 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733, Free Talk Live.
Maxwell, she was scratching and losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to chicken. Another vet said, eat the grain. Third vet said, it's the weather. Then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. It took 2 weeks, and the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out. The Dinovite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway. Take action now. Save and support freedom. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. It's shop.freetalklive.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Tyler.
And, of course, you can bring up whatever you want. That is the point here. Now, if you've got a WordPress website, and a lot of people do, a lot of websites run by WordPress, and if you're selling something on your WordPress site through the WooCommerce platform on WordPress, very popular platform for selling things, then you're ready to start taking cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Dash, Bitcoin Cash, or Bitcoin SV. Now you can easily enable crypto payments from your customers by adding the AnyPay plugin to your WordPress site. It only takes a moment. All you got to do is go to anypayinc.com to set up your account. If you don't have one yet, that'll take you just a few minutes. anypayinc.com, and then enable the AnyPay plugin on your WooCommerce install. That's it. And now you're taking crypto. Like, we're talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you're slow. About it. Yeah. And it's free to do it, too. There's no cost to you as the business owner to accept cryptocurrencies. So this is a no-brainer. Get that money off the table. Get it into your pocket. anypayinc.com. As we continue here, we got Steve. He's on the line in Fort Smith, listening to KFPW. Steve, we've been talking with you about some of the differences that you've been researching the libertarians and that you believe that you have with libertarians on the issues. Specifically, you picked the war on drugs or drug prohibition. And, we've been kind of going back and forth on that. And one of the points that I made that you kind of agreed with was that you didn't really think that somebody's life would be made better by spending 5 years behind bars if they already have a heroin addiction. So you're it sounds like you're on the same page, right? So, would you agree then that...
And I'm open to, the caveat to what I said was, or my thinking is, and yes, we can use big words in Arkansas. I can see possibly the benefit, if I was arguing the case to legalize, or not legalize drugs, but decriminalize drugs, I would think that one of the benefits would be that a lot of the violence you see in the drug culture wouldn't be as bad.
That's correct.
Because now, listen, you can look this case up. It happened about 18 years ago in Northeast Arkansas. My cousin, his name is Billy Ray Green, or Billy Dale Green, and my cousin, Charles Wayne Green. Yes, they both go by 3 names. That's never a good thing.
Yeah. Too bad they didn't take out a president. That's what those guys usually do.
They were the local guys that you bought your weed from. I mean, they lived out in the middle of nowhere. They grew a bunch of it, and that's where you went. And a guy, and I can't remember their name, but he stole 10 marijuana plants from their plot. They found out who did it.
Mm-hmm.
They took him to his house and made him watch at gunpoint while they beat his wife and 5-year-old son.
Jeez.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, so what you're talking about there is a total example of what happens during drug prohibition. When it's illegal to grow marijuana, then people get real serious about what happens if somebody robs their grow operation, and you have criminal enterprises competing with violence over their territories, just like you did during alcohol prohibition. All the same consequences of alcohol prohibition have been happening with drug prohibition.
And that's something that's really moved me is that when I realized that alcohol prohibition caused the worst crime wave in American history, and it stayed the worst crime wave in American history until drug prohibition came along and said, "Hey, prohibition, hold my beer."
Yep. Yeah. I think a lot of people look at drug prohibition and go, well, I don't want these people to do these drugs, so why would I want to legalize them? Right? And the problem with that is that you're trying to determine what's best for other people, and most of the time as humans, we have to make mistakes for ourselves. Anytime you prohibit anything, you put it into prohibition, right? And it's when there is no path of least resistance and you have a disagreement with someone, you can't just take it to court, then what's going to happen? You break kneecaps or you do something like your cousins did. And that's when you realize that is where the real problem is in reducing violence. That's when you realize it's like, we just need to let these people do what they want to do, and we need to treat them from a medical perspective, not from a judicial one.
Right. And the older I get, the more I realize that, you can't, the only thing you can control is yourself.
Yep.
You can't, just like I have 2 teenagers at home, and I've told them what the rules are and what mom and dad want them to do, but they're not. I mean, my son just turned 18. My daughter's going to be 17 in 7 days. They're going to do what they want to do. And the people that want to go get high and or get strung out, I mean, they were probably going to do that whether it's legal or not.
Right.
So I can see both sides, but I come from a place of the drug culture has always been such a bane for me personally. And so it's hard for me to make that leap and say, well, maybe we need to decriminalize it and see what it looks like, because I've known too many people.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
It's hard for a lot of people.
You've known all these people, and the whole time it's been illegal. So, all the people you've known about, all the terrible stories you've known about, they've all happened despite the fact that they've been facing potential prison time for their habit. And so the fact that it has been illegal has not helped this situation in any way, shape, or form. It is making people's lives worse. It makes the addicts' lives even more difficult, because now if they're an addict and they get busted, well, now they're an addict in jail, and they just lost. If they had an apartment, they just lost it. If they had a job, they just lost it. And so now they're going to get get out of jail. They don't have a job. They don't have a home to go to. And so that's probably not going to result in them making better choices the first thing they do when they get out of jail. They probably want to go and get high first things first.
Right. And there are, like I said, there are things that I agree with you guys. But, I believe in less government. I believe we should have more liberty to do. I mean, that's why we came to this country. I mean, my family has been here since the 20s, I guess.
Well, ending prohibition is a less government or a small government position, because it basically says, hey, if we're going to have a government police force, they should be focusing on crimes that have a victim. So let's have them looking into rapes. Let's have them looking into murders. Let's have them looking into arson, property crimes, destruction, theft, things like that. That's, if you're going to have a police force, what they should be spending their time doing, not going around and looking for Bobby Joe who's got a marijuana grow operation, or somebody cooking up some meth in their kitchen or whatever. Because if you legalize the drugs, then you see the meth leaves the kitchen environment or the back room, and it goes into a controlled manufacturer. Some drug company will start to manufacture it and sell it. In fact, they already do. It's called Disoxin. It is already available through prescription, so it's something that it is already a thing. It would just be, there'd be more of it. The price of it would come down, so you'd see less violence. You'd see fewer people being knocked over the head and having their wallet stolen.
So let me ask you this: do you believe that they should just be decriminalized or legalized? Because that's two different things.
That's a distinction,
right?
yeah.
It's an important conversation to have, yeah.
I personally believe that all of these laws should be repealed at the federal level, because the federal government has no say over common crimes. That's not their purview. And I would like to see them repealed at all levels, but it should at least be devolved to the states, because it's not a federal issue.
I think I like the term that you came up with, Nobody, depenalization. So instead of decrim or legalization, which entails regulation, depenalization. Just make it so the market can decide on these things. Good conversation,
but
Steve.
If you hurt
we got more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
News from news.bitcoin.com. U.S. Postal Service files a patent for new blockchain voting method. Warren Buffett changes his opinion on gold. Maybe Bitcoin is next. $6 billion Akon cryptocurrency city underway. Former Prudential CEO says now's the time to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies. Getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com. Subscribe to Bitcoin.com's YouTube channel too. Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
Now that multiple Thomas E. Dewey High School sources have confirmed that junior Jessica Milley will soon begin putting out, with many speculating that she'll go all the way with her boyfriend Josh Gibson as early as this Friday, Milley's classmates have been quick to weigh in on the news.
Jessica was sitting at this table when she told Erica that she was finally going to do Josh.
Jessica's pretty hot, so I'm happy with her decision.
I was pretty certain the next girl to start putting out would be Amy Courtley, because everybody knows her mom's a slut.
While the majority of students were somewhat surprised that Jessica might give it up at Andy Wheeler's house party this Friday, possibly on one of Wheeler's 2 basement couches, Milley's intentions didn't come as a shock to some. Now that the news is settling in, several Dewey High sources are suggesting that Milley's decision could cause a domino effect in which even more classmates begin putting out in the near future.
I think I'm going to start putting out in January or February, definitely by prom.
Keep checking theonion.com for more news as this story progresses.
This is the Onion News Network.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Hey guys, Mark Claire here, lionsofliberty.com, where we strive to advance the ideas of liberty daily. We bring you the Morning Roar. That's right, every Monday to Friday we'll have a brand new edition of the Morning Roar, where we provide a roundup of some news stories that you may not find in the mainstream media or even in your typical social media newsfeed. We find stories that relate to the ideas of liberty and provide you with our liberty perspective on them. Every Monday, we have our longest-running feature, Mondays with Murray, named after the great libertarian Murray Rothbard, where we'll examine an article or an excerpt from his works and help convey his view, along with our little spin as well. We wrap it all up every Friday with Felony Friday, where our own John Odermatt goes out and takes a look at some sort of felony. There's felonies committed every day, you know, whether it's a felony committed by the police, a politician, or even an average citizen. You can find all of this and so much more over at lionsofliberty.com. Advancing the ideas of liberty daily.
Join the LRN.FM Discord for live chat 24/7 at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. It's Ian, Nobody, and Tyler in the studio here tonight. I could have kept Steve on for the rest of the hour. We can talk forever about this particular issue.
Right.
Nobody and I are a bit of subject matter experts on drug prohibition, and it's one of my least favorite issues. Like,
right.
I wish it would just disappear. But in the meantime, it is something that people do need to talk about, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about it. And there is something that I think that is worthy of taking a closer look at, and that is the experiment that they've been engaging in Portugal for the last 15-plus years now.
Yeah.
Where they actually did decriminalize the possession of small amounts of all drugs for the individual. So it's not legal to sell the drugs to the individual, technically. Obviously, they got to get them somehow, but it's still not legal to do that. But if they're caught, if an individual's caught with a little bit of heroin, a little bit of LSD, a little bit of, whatever,
right,
then what happens usually, from the research we've done, is there still is a legal process, which I don't support there being any kind of force. But again, it's decrim, so decriminalization just means they've removed some of the criminality from possession and or sale or whatever.
Right.
And so in these cases, they are usually issued some sort of a summons where, and I believe the drugs are usually confiscated from them. So even though they're sort of allowed to have them, they're also not allowed, but they're not going to go to jail.
Yeah.
They're not going to leave the encounter in handcuffs. They're going to leave with some sort of a date for a class or whatever that they have to take.
Right.
Now, I don't agree with that, and this kind of goes back to what you said earlier, Tyler, where you said it's a health issue, it should be treated as a health issue, and that's kind of what they're doing in Portugal, and they've had tremendous success as far as the number of addicts in Portugal has gone down dramatically, and it went down quickly. And that's not because they're all killing themselves, because now they can dose up as much as they want.
Right.
It's because they the black cloud, the stigma that hangs over people, that they don't want to be honest with folks about their addiction because they don't want to get in trouble. Well, now if there's no jail time surrounding the use of these things, now they might not be as afraid to go to a doctor or go to a family member and say, hey, I've got this problem. Can you help me? Can you help me with it?
Right.
And so they are getting help.
Yeah. Going back to what Steve said, too, right at the end, just to tell him my stance. I mean, I understand, legalization, decriminalization, they're very distinct. legalization, to me, like you said, Ian, it brings up regulation, and it gets the government's hands in it, right? Like, I don't think that we should have...
It keeps the government's hands in it. It just changes their role. Instead of raiding everybody and throwing everyone in prison, now they're only raiding and throwing in prison the people who won't get licenses. So they are still busting marijuana grow
or can't get licenses because they're not in the club.
They're not, or they're a felon or something like that.
Right. Like, I can't sell weed because illegally in most of the legal states because I've been convicted of selling weed. And, they wouldn't want to give that job to the kind of person who would do it.
The guy that has the experience cannot legally do it.
Yeah. Well, and when they legalize marijuana, like in Colorado and Washington, you see a lot of people that they were ahead of the game. They got the paperwork set up, and then they created these huge growth operations. And then 5 years later, they're still driving the same pickup. They live in the same house. They didn't make a bunch of money off it just because the government came in and just taxed the bejesus out of them right off the bat. And you also see a lot of instances where there were people that were in the illicit marijuana trade that when they legalized it, they didn't get their opportunity to go legitimate because there were people with money who had talked to the politicians and greased some elbows and got in first. And that's what happens when you try and legalize something. We don't need Bayer trying to give us advertisements about how we should all be taking meth. Right? Like, I don't want to see that on TV. So I'm very much a decriminalized stance.
Yeah, I like decriminalization, but all the way, which is why I like nobody's term of depenalization.
Yeah.
Meaning that there should be no criminal penalty whatsoever, but there also should be no regulations.
Yeah.
So let the marketplace decide.
And there's a third thing, which is the fact that you were on drugs is not an excuse for any actual crime you may have committed.
Right.
So
it's not an excuse to be drunk, and it's not an excuse to be on anything else.
Exactly. That I think is an error that the AA people made, and it's been carried over, that they would intercede with judges and say we think we can help this person. Well, good, but if he's done some harm, he needs to make right for that.
Absolutely.
One of the big problems, too, is that addiction is seen as a disease, but really it's a symptom of a deeper disease, and it has to do with mental health. A lot of people don't realize that addicts aren't addicts. Typically, I should say, because I'm not a doctor, but addicts aren't addicts because they have this biological difference in their brain that just makes them really want this stuff. A lot of it comes from trauma, and a lot of it comes from their childhood or their upbringing or past experiences, and they're just trying to drown out whatever it is that's haunting them.
And for some people, it's not the past, it's the current. It's just being in a crappy situation, maybe in a job they don't like, with somebody that they don't love anymore, or whatever. The situation is just dismal, and it looks bleak on the horizon, so a lot of these people will use drugs in order to escape from their current circumstances.
Definitely.
And there have been studies that have been done about this, and not just in humans, but also in rats, for instance, that proves this.
Yeah, there was a brilliant study. The first study that they used to justify the drug war was one where they would put rats in cages, and they'd give them 2 water bottles, one with just water, and one would be water with cocaine or heroin in it. And invariably, these rats would hit the cocaine or the heroin until they OD'd and died. Well, and that was the justification for the drug war. Well, they came along and did another experiment later that they called Rat Park. And instead of putting 120 rats in 120 cages, they put 120 rats in one big cage. And they put in some rat toys and some rat girls that they could chase. And and as a result of that, what they found was, although they would occasionally go to the medicated water bottles, or poison water bottles, depending on how you want to think about it, they didn't do it to the point of obsession, and they didn't do it to the point of death. They didn't have a single OD in the Rat Park.
And
people are less simple than rats,
but not that much more complicated.
We're more likely to be broken for reasons that aren't obvious.
Yeah. But what they were suggesting with that study is that when the rats had something to live for, meaning fun activities, a social circle, things that are happening in their little rat paradise, then they were less likely to be drug addicts. Whereas if all they had was just some boring cage and that was their entire lifetime, and all you got is what the only way out is to nip on the cocaine water, then that's what they did until they died.
Nobody wants to escape from a life that's working for them.
Yeah, exactly. And so there have been studies that have been replicated like that with humans. And I forget the guy's name. I think it was Carl Bott.
Is this the guy who wrote Chasing the Scream?
I don't remember. He's a black guy with like dreadlocks, but he's a doctor, and he did a study on human beings, and he looked at a group of people that were brought into like a hospital kind of sterile environment, and they were given like the biggest crack rock or meth rock that they, just pure crack, like the best lab grade quality, like the best blue meth kind of level.
Where can I sign up for
quality
this?
product? That,
you got any more of that?
and they were told that they could either have the meth today and get high, or they could forgo having the meth and they would get $20 per day that they forgo, the drugs, that they would be added to a credit. So they wouldn't be given the $20 at the end of the day. They would be given it at the end of the study, which was 3 weeks down the road.
Right.
And so they wanted to see how many, and these were like hopeless addicts that they brought into this study. It wasn't just the average person off the street. They brought in already drug addicted people just to see what would happen. And it turned out that when they were given the proper incentive, so it wasn't $5 a day, but 20 was enough to make them think, okay, this is worth waiting for. And they actually, a significant number of them withheld and chose to not take the crack or the meth and instead wait for the cash payout at the end of the time. Just to see, are these people really hopelessly addicted? Turns out no. If they have their incentives changed, then the addiction washed away.
Yeah.
Right? So again, did they have something to live for?
Yep.
And the people that don't are much more likely to become addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
I'm just another dopeless hope fiend.
Right. So, and again, forcing people into medical treatment is also not the answer. So forcing them into a prison cell doesn't help, and forcing them into medical treatment if they're not ready for it doesn't help them, and it definitely doesn't help the people who are in treatment that want to get help, because then you get somebody coming in there that doesn't want to be there, and that brings all kinds of other problems. There's more coming up here. Free Talk Live.
Are you ready for what's next? It's likely coming. More food shortages, power outages, grocery stores closed, social unrest. Ask yourself, do you have enough food and supplies on hand to last at least 30 days? Most Americans do not, but you can. Avoid the panic of the last-minute rush. Order your 4-week supply of emergency food today from mypatriotsupply.com. Starvation or dependency on the government are your only alternatives. Avoid those and the pain of being unprepared. Go to mypatriotsupply.com right now. Build your emergency food supply with meals that last up to 25 years in storage, shipped discreetly to your door. Folks that know what's coming are using today to prepare. There's time for you to do the same. That's mypatriotsupply.com, the original Patriot Preparedness Company. mypatriotsupply.com.
Attention radio listeners, if you're concerned about the coming chaos after the November elections, this will be an extremely important message. Here's why. No matter what the outcome in November, catastrophic social upheaval is a very real possibility. Here's why this is important. Listen, we all know that silver and gold have been historic hedges against the uncertain waves of social chaos and unstable currencies. But did you know that there's been times in the past, during times of extreme hardship, when Americans put another store of value above even silver and gold? It's true, open-pollinated seeds have been and could very well be the ultimate store of value in the coming hard times ahead. Go to survivalseedbank.com to get heirloom seeds below wholesale. Visit survivalseedbank.com this week and get hundreds of dollars in free bonuses. Beat the coming chaos, beat rising food prices, but above all, don't wait. Beat the crowds by claiming your own Survival Seed Bank today.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Live video of our Keene, New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You bring up what you want. Take control of the airwaves here. Our number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. And that is where you can bring up, again, whatever you want to discuss. We've got news, by the way, to talk about tonight. Tyler, you've just got a story about China and the Disney Corporation, and I think we should probably get into that, unless you guys have more to say on the war on drugs, which you may or may not. So, go ahead.
I mean, I'm sure I'll have more to say in the future,
Sure.
but I don't have to get it out now.
All right, fair enough.
We could talk about that
this
all night. Till the cows come home.
Let's move on. If you've got the story pulled up, Tyler, on this thing.
From naturalnews.com. Double-faced Disney threatens pro-life state of Georgia, yet ignores Chinese human rights abuses. Okay, so it goes on.
Are we talking about Georgia, the nation?
No, Georgia, the state.
The state of.
So
Okay,
I think
the
it
one
happened
north of
last
Florida.
year,
Gotcha.
right? Yeah, Disney refused to do any filming in Georgia because they're a pro-life state, and they recently enacted some laws against abortion. So Disney decided that they weren't going to do any filming there. But they seem to have no problem with China. So
even though China is locking people in concentration camps,
right? Yeah,
and
the Uyghur
harvesting
Muslims.
their organs for sale on the international market.
Right.
Allegedly,
So,
but I'd say there's probably some. It makes sense that they would do that.
I think they're actually admitting to that.
Really?
Yeah. At least that they've done it.
Oh yeah.
for
What are you going to
the,
do about it? You going to invade?
Wasn't Planned Parenthood doing the same thing here, right? With like fetus parts or something? I feel like that was a thing.
Yeah, fetus parts. The only difference is these are like full-grown adults. Who
Right.
Just, they go to sleep in prison and they wake up with no liver.
Yeah. Yeah. The article goes, Disney offered special thanks to 8 government offices in China's Xinjiang province, the site of human rights abuses against the Uyghur minority. In the credits of the last movie Mulan, among the offices thanked in the credits was the Turpan Municipal Bureau of Public Safety, which was responsible for detaining Uyghurs in so-called, quote, re-education camps. Right? So Disney's just going to go out and put it right on the credits. It's like, these are our boys right here. Thanks for letting us film here. Previously, Disney threatened to end filming in the state of Georgia after it passed a law in May 2019 banning abortion when a doctor detects a heartbeat from the fetus. Disney CEO Bob Iger said that it would be very difficult for the media corporation to continue filming in Georgia if the law takes effect. Yeah. And the state offers a tax credit that has encouraged many film and TV productions, which Disney took advantage of when it filmed the movies Black Panther and Avengers Endgame. However, Disney's threat to stop filming in Georgia shows the company flexing its corporate muscle to determine democratic process. So, I mean, their issue with Georgia definitely stems from the fact that they don't like conservative legislation, right? I mean,
they're definitely trying to make some sort of public statement and appease a certain group of people, whoever those folks are. It sounds like the people on the left.
Right.
Now, whether that's because they want to appease the Motion Picture Academy or whoever, because I did hear that they just came out with some, I think it was the Academy Awards, whichever group's behind that, came out with some sort of affirmative action requirements. I think I didn't look deeply into this story.
I haven't read that yet
but
either.
basically,
it's
if you
on my
want
list.
if you want your movie to be considered for an Oscar, then it has to meet these specific requirements of you must hire X number of black actors or or whatever. Right?
Go figure, right?
So there definitely there's a group of people on the left that's a company like Disney would want to appease.
Definitely. And it's just interesting to me that the left has always been the champions of human rights. Supposedly. Well, it seemed that way for a long time. And now with China, it just seems to be that they're all silent.
Yeah, it's very convenient, and this ties into some other stories we've had as well, like the video game companies who have been basically filleting the Chinese government and letting them do whatever they want to do without question, because they want the marketplace. They want to be able to be in that Chinese marketplace, where there's a lot of video game players. Because, well, again, people, to go back to our drug prohibition conversation, people with terrible lives want to escape their lives, and if you're not a drug user, you might be a video game addict.
Yeah.
Some people are absolutely hooked on gaming. And in China, the penalty for being a video game addict is much lower than the penalty for being a drug abuser. So there's an incentive to go off in that direction.
Right.
So these video game companies, they don't want to be out of that market. And so they have been toeing the line when it comes to the Chinese government.
Well, yeah, and there's a huge market in China, right? China's middle class is larger than our entire nation, population. So, there's definitely money to be made there. And Hollywood sees that too. If anyone's interested out there as to why all the blockbuster films over the last 10 years seem to just be heavily CG, low on dialogue, action adventures, it has to do with the fact that Hollywood is trying to market to an international audience. And confusing dialogue doesn't look great on subtitles.
Well, and if they throw in a Chinese actor, then it gets, they put that guy front and center in the posters in China.
Right.
And it's a much better marketing aspect.
It's funny. In China, when they started filming Mulan, originally, I think the lead actor was supposed to be white.
Oh, really?
And that was the Chinese decision. They thought it would appeal to Americans more if they could identify with the main character. And it was American liberals that were like, no, it has to be an all Chinese cast and it has to be authentic and blah, blah, blah. And the Chinese were like, we're just trying to make you happy. But there definitely seems to be some bias here. The article goes on.
They should have brought in somebody from the Wu-Tang Clan.
There you go. That would have evened things out. This latest instance was not the first time the live-action Mulan, a remake on the 1998 animated movie, landed in hot water. Oh, I think this is going into what I was talking about. Its lead actress, Lue, I can't pronounce her name, I'm sorry, drew flack after she expressed support for Hong Kong police, who were accused of violence towards protesters in the Special Administrative Region. Lu's comments prompted calls to boycott the movie on Twitter using the hashtag #BoycottMulan hashtag. Hong Kong pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong summed up a good reason not to watch the live-action Mulan film in a tweet. Patronizing the movie is tantamount to, quote, turning a blind eye to police brutality and racial injustice.
Wow.
And being complicit in the inhumane imprisonment of the Uyghurs.
Doesn't that sound familiar? It's interesting that they're saying the same thing in Hong Kong that they're saying in Kenosha. About police brutality and racial injustice. None of this is uniquely American.
No, and it's going on all over the world. I mean, it was happening in South America. It's happening in Europe. And it's just, it's crazy to me that the same people that allow these corporations to play this game and they choose not to look through the veil. It's really sad because the entire thing that's going on with Hollywood and these companies is that they're trying to appease their consumer base, but they're willing to give up what it is that the country that they were even founded in allowed them to do in the first place, right? Freedom of expression. And then they want to censor the things that they're trying to put out, and they don't seem to care. There's a lot of, like Mark Cuban was asked, because he owns a basketball team, I think, and he was asked, what do you think about what's going on in Hong Kong? He's like, I don't want to comment on what's going on in another nation. Right? Because all of his, because the NBA is pretty much ran by the Chinese now.
Isn't he supposed to be like a conservative of some sort?
Well, yeah, he's supposed to be a free market activist. I mean, he's a venture capitalist. You would think that he would care about the things that this country afforded him, right?
Yeah. Well, if he bought a basketball team, now he's tied in with the NBA, and we've seen them. They're just like the video game companies. They are also appeasing the Chinese government. And so if he wants to stay in their good graces, he's got to keep his mouth shut.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of scary when you think about just the fact that, these companies are placating to these, not the people's demand in China, but the government's demand.
That's right. We don't know what the people think.
Right. And these same companies are lobbying money to Congress to pass legislation they approve, and that should bother us. It's like, well, if you're willing to appease China, then how far are you willing to take that? Are you going to start lobbying for things that China also wants you to lobby for if your money's tied in with them? Yeah.
Yeah, how far will you let them push you?
Exactly. And it's getting, ridiculous, if you ask me, especially just because of the hypocrisy alone.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, it is not a bad thing to have a global marketplace, but when you start kowtowing to what the government gangs want you to do, then you become their bitch, and your product changes based on what government goons are telling you to do, and that's maybe not what the people who are buying your product actually want.
Yeah.
It would be interesting if we could redirect part of the left, like get them working on establishing a high minimum wage in China. So
right,
that
maybe
we
they should
can
actually care
get
about the
all our
human rights
jobs
of
back.
this other country. Yeah, exactly. Disney's refusal to acknowledge human rights abuses in Xinjiang, where Mulan was being filmed, even thanking the local government bureaus responsible for imprisoning Uyghurs in concentration camps, clearly shows that it sold itself out for a foothold in the mainland Chinese market.
Sure.
Disney joins a number of corporations in America that have thrown away the values they originally stood for in order to gain access to Chinese customers. Once they have done so, they pander to the diktats of the Chinese authorities because they fear losing a big chunk of revenue from this profitable customer base.
Well, I don't know what the values they originally stood for was.
Yeah,
but
that's
Disney, anti-Semitism, and pederasty mostly.
Toll-free number, 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, we've got another update for you on Burning Man that was not supposed to happen, then did happen because some people went anyway. And we'll tell you what the official Burning Man viewpoint of that is on the way here in moments. Hour number 3 coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now's your chance to be part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for everyone to use it in everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that's as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more, and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Fires raging in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. In Oregon, more than 900,000 acres have burned in the last several days, more than a typical year.
Approximately 30,000 to 40,000 Oregonians have evacuated so far, and evacuations are ongoing. Please stay vigilant and listen to your local officials and firefighters.
Governor Kate Brown, who says there have been fatalities, but the exact number is not yet known. In Washington state, fires have scorched nearly 937 square miles just this week. Governor Jay Inslee has declared a state of emergency. A new round of coronavirus aid has failed in a procedural vote in the Senate.
Everybody pretty much knew which direction this was going to go. This was not a straight up or down vote on coronavirus relief. This was an effort to break a filibuster. Democrats were filibustering filibustering this piece of legislation. You need 60 votes to crack a filibuster. The vote today was 52 to 47. Even though they needed 60 yeas for this, there were questions as to whether or not Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell could coax at least 51 senators on his side of the aisle to vote yes. McConnell was coy yesterday that he may not have had 51 GOP votes then, but he had them today, 52.
Fox's Chad Perkham. It's not clear what happens next with the measure. A panel of 3 federal judges has ruled President Trump's order to exclude people in the country illegally when redrawing congressional districts violates the law. President Trump continues to be on defense with a contrast in his public remarks about COVID-19 versus what he told journalist Bob Woodward in February.
So obviously, outwardly, I said it's a very serious problem. And it's always a serious problem. That doesn't mean I'm going to jump up and down in the air and start saying people are going to die, people are going to die. No, I'm not going to do that.
Democrats say the failure to disclose the seriousness of the virus has cost lives. America is listening to Fox News.
For over 20 years, millions of customers have trusted Blinds.com to update their homes. Because Blinds.com makes it easy to get custom blinds that'll give your windows a high-end look without the high-end price. Whether you like to DIY, need design help, or prefer measure and install services, they do it all with easy online ordering and free shipping right to your door. If you're nervous, know that Blinds.com has over 30,000 5-star customer reviews, and they guarantee the perfect fit for your windows, whether you do it yourself or have them do the whole installation.
Go to Blinds.com now to get this week's special savings on interior blinds, shades, shutters, and even outdoor shades. Plus, pay over 24 months at 0% APR on qualifying purchases with PayPal Credit Easy payments through 9/17/2020.
As of March 1st, 2020, new PayPal credit accounts have a variable purchase APR of 25.49% that will vary with the market based on the prime rate. Minimum interest charge is $2, subject to credit approval. Visit Blinds.com/PayPal. Other rules and restrictions may apply.
A shortage of medical-grade masks and protective equipment was highlighted in the early days of the pandemic, and some say it hasn't improved much.
Months after the coronavirus ravaged New York in March, healthcare workers and hospital officials say they still don't have enough adequate supplies of N95 respirator masks or other protective gear. White House officials say the U.S. has all the medical supplies needed to fight COVID-19, but the Associated Press reports that hospital administrators say they can't get as many masks as they want. The FDA has also included N95s on its most recent medical supplies shortage list. Manufacturers say the Trump administration hasn't made the long-term investments they need in order to ramp up to full capacity, but the head of FEMA's Supply Chain Stabilization Task Force denies there are shortages. In New York, Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
A protest leader in Belarus claims she was threatened with death after security officers grabbed her from the street.
Belarusian opposition leader Maria Kolesnikova saying security officers put a bag over her head.
LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. As our contract with our satellite provider is coming up for another 3-year renewal, I have to consider calling it quits. It's rare that we get feedback or support from our satellite users. We started a fundraiser a few years ago, and though there are a bunch of great contributors to it, as of this recording, it covers 15% of our monthly satellite costs. Please email lrn@lrn.fm and tell me how you use the satellite feed. Better yet, chip in at fund.lrn.fm. The costs aren't the issue. We can afford them, but why continue something not valued by the market? Want to help? You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. Fund.lrn.fm.
In an unsettling video released over the web this week, Buddhist extremist cell Kamathana vowed to unleash a massive wave of serenity and nirvana all across the West. Members of the group threatened to implement such severe measures as tranquil chanting, meditation sessions, and eye-opening koans, and assured U.S. leaders of the group's absolute commitment to engulfing Americans in complete and unyielding enlightenment. Here now is a clip from the video.
We will not cease until every city, from New York to London, succumbs to a state of spiritual harmony.
We
Prepare yourself.
Sources confirm that the Pentagon responded to the film by ordering immediate tactical bombings throughout Tibet. And in tech news, the inventor of the Gromdar says he's determined to put a Gromdar in every American home. In other news, a woman who had almost formed a healthy sense of self joined social media, and an area man can remember exactly where he was and what he was doing when he assassinated John F. Kennedy.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, kicking off the third hour of the program. As always, you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Tyler.
We're going to continue here an update on Burning Man, which we've been following for the past couple of weeks, given that it was canceled. And then turns out some people went anyway, which of course warms my heart. I like it when that sort of thing happens.
Burning Man is so hot.
On the way, Tyler, you're going to be telling us about a segregated college campus, and we'll get into what that means on the way. Toll-free number, if you want to join us here, 855-450-FREE. Whatever you want to talk about goes. But Burning Man's always been something that's a bit of a fascination for me. I've always kind of toyed with the idea of going to it, but I never actually have, because it's such a huge commitment, not just in time, because you unless you want to like fly there and go out to the playa, you pretty much have to drive it out, right? Like, so if you want to properly pack for this week-long experience in the desert, you got to pack a ton of water, you got to pack all the food in, you can get some things while you're there. There's this sort of trading thing that goes on with people. They call it a gift economy, which is like this commie thing, and that's a whole other discussion to have. But you've got to. They call it what they call it is radical self-reliance. It's one of the main kind of themes of Burning Man. It's always been there from the early days. And yeah, you do have to have some serious self-reliance to go camp in the middle of nowhere, where there's literally not even like a running brook of water. You're in the desert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there's no resources anywhere except for sunlight, and that's about it. Of course, some people do bring in. There's pump trucks for people with their RVs, and there's easier ways to do it. Like if you rent an RV and you go to Burning Man, it's probably gonna be a little more of a comfy experience than if you're out in the windswept terrain. And if you don't use rebar to like batten down the hatches of your tent, it's literally gonna blow away.
Right.
And they have that happen. Like the newbies at Burning Man that didn't do their research just show up, think they can put a little, the little tent spikes in the ground and they're going to be fine. No. It don't work like that. They go out during the day, they come back and their entire tent site is gone.
Oof.
I camped through a hurricane on South Padre Island off the
in Texas.
Near Texas, or off the coast of Texas, and had the same experience watching my tent be straight out in the wind, going horizontal. And we're sitting in the car going, yeah, we're not going to be sleeping in that tonight.
Right. So, I mean, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort to go out to this particular event. And so for a long time, it was sort of marketed as this independent thing. And, of course, it's this amazing community that comes together for 1 week and has been as large as 70,000+ people. So bigger than the city of Nashua, New Hampshire, the second largest city in New Hampshire. This comes together in a week's time, and people have, by and large, a good time, and they come home and everything's okay. They might have had some crazy experiences and seen some wild artwork and met some interesting characters, but most of the stories are pretty positive, except for when the cops come in and they arrest people and they make life difficult on folks, and except for the fact that Burning Man has this party on government property, on federal government Bureau of Land Management land, which means they have to make all kinds of concessions to the state in order to do their thing. And so as the event has gotten more popular over the years, it seems to have, not surprisingly, strayed from its roots. That it's become, jump the shark. It's sold out, as some people would
It's
say.
no longer a renegade gathering.
It's a yuppie festival.
Well, and if not, and if as though they needed to prove it to you, now they have Burning Man 2020. This story from YourEDM.com. So it's a dance music
electronic
website.
dance music.
Electronic dance music. They write, Burning Man 2020 would have taken place in the Black Rock Desert of northern Nevada from August 30th to September 7th in what is undoubtedly a second home to the approximately 80,000 people who attend every year.
Had the anarchists not obeyed the government.
And a bunch of them didn't. There were a couple thousand folks who showed up anyway, which was very interesting.
That's my kind of Burning Man.
Yeah, and we reported on that several days ago. So in what is, they say here, the COVID-19 removed a pillar of a community, and its residents, so to speak, have gone elsewhere to keep the spirit alive. People have gathered at Black Rock City itself, and others have put on such distasteful events like Reunite over the past couple of weeks. Saturday night.
That sounds awful.
According to
Reunite.
The San Francisco mayor, and we reported on this mayor as well. Basically, the mayor was calling the folks who were partying on the beach in San Francisco, which was where it all started, by the way, in the mid-1980s. Burning Man started on a San Francisco beach, which was called, I think, I don't have it in front of me right now, but one of the San Francisco beaches. And so some of them gathered on the beach to sort of remember Burning Man and have a little, party when they weren't in the Black Rock Desert. And the mayor called them reckless, and he called it selfish, saying they're putting people's lives at risk. You're putting our progress at risk. No one is immune from spreading the virus. And then the following night, Burning Man, the official organization, condemned the gathering. They posted this.
Can I slip out a quick correction for the mayor? Anybody who doesn't have the virus is immune from spreading it, dude. Dude, think.
Well, I mean, somebody with the virus might have been there, but regardless, people.
But the thing is, anybody who doesn't have it is immune from spreading it.
And people should be free to make their choices if they want. But regardless, Burning Man took a side. And they wrote on Twitter, quote, as members of our global community continue to honor Burning Man culture this weekend, we urge everyone to refrain from gathering unsafely in large groups, maintain public health, and respect local, state, and federal guidelines. Let's all help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
It's not enough that you stay home because you don't want to go out. That's your prerogative. You do that.
Right.
But it's like to condemn all these people that are like, virus be damned. Let's just go do what we want and have fun. This was supposed to be a counterculture movement anyway.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And the thing is, we're all reasoning from too little information. We're all getting our information from a government that can't be trusted, from a media that can't be trusted, from a scientific establishment that can't be trusted.
That's right.
So how can I condemn somebody for coming to different conclusions than I do when so much of it is the subjective question of who do you trust the most, who do you trust the least?
Yeah, I think this would have been the year to go to Burning Man because
I would have gone.
Because the official organization wasn't involved. Because this year was the only probably the most true to the original Burning Man, at least in the last few decades, right? Because it's been going on since the mid-1980s. This year, there were no organizers, but yet a few thousand people showed up, according to some estimates, in the middle of the desert.
Burning Man, Satoshi's vision.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, I mean, shame on these people, these, state-filleting people over at the Burning Man Project. I mean, they should be ashamed of themselves, basically just insulting whatever traditions that they supposedly held dear for some amount of time and have now flushed it down the drain completely to just show everybody how obedient they are to this COVID craze. What a shame.
So this is on state-run property, but there's somebody who's charging tickets to go, right? You have to get a ticket.
It's almost $500 per head.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Holy cow.
But
you're
not this
allowed,
year.
You're
Not this year. It was free this year.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to sell anything or make a profit or try and get any of your money back, but these guys can charge you, and it's not even their land.
That's
it's
right.
state land, so someone's making a pretty penny.
I think they are paying the Bureau of Land Management some amount of money, but yeah, they're definitely taking plenty for the organization.
Oh man!
And I wonder if that's some of the intent for having only the gift economy. Is normally like dead shows. People who couldn't afford to go to a dead show every week, they'll go and vend something, and that makes it possible for them to attend. If they weren't able to go and vend, they couldn't be there at all.
Yeah.
And that sort of person is going to get squeezed out of a thing like Burning Man.
This sort of reminds me of like Metallica attacking its own fans back 20 years ago. Remember when the first file sharing services were out, like Napster? Metallica got really upset because their own fans were sharing Metallica albums online, and they just lashed out at them. But at least to their credit, 15 years later, they finally kind of saw the light, and they actually released an entire album for free online.
Nice.
But they finally figured it
Hey,
out. Burning
gonna
Man's
make
gone
it.
in the other direction. They have completely. They started out counterculture and have completely become adopted by the state culture.
Right.
It's too
That's what
bad.
happens anytime there's money to be made. Someone's going to come in and try and stir things up and make their penny.
If it gets big, it gets co-opted.
Yep, it seems that way. The toll-free number tonight is 855-450-FREE. Speaking of money, college campuses, man, they just love some of that stuff too. And
Don't they?
Now you've got a story, Tyler, about a college campus that is setting up segregation on campus. Maybe whether it was their intention or not is another question. We'll get into it. This is Free Talk Live.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. DIVI project.org.
Every year, over 1 million fires burn in America. Fortunately, firefighters are on the job, saving life and property, and you can be a part of it. 7 out of 10 firefighters and emergency responders are volunteers. There's no typical firefighter. Anyone can volunteer to serve their community. Volunteering as a first responder is really about having the heart and drive to make a difference where it's needed most. Your community needs you. Are you ready to answer the call? Learn more and find local volunteer opportunities at makemeafirefighter.org.
Did you know you can support freedom of speech just by visiting shop.freetalklive.com? You'll see links to Walmart, Love Java, Newegg, and more. Every day, Free Talk Live is at the forefront of the liberty movement as the biggest liberty-oriented talk show in the world, giving you a platform to be heard on any topic. Get listener-only specials without doing anything other than an extra click. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. Use the links and buy what you'd be buying anyway. Take action now. Save and support freedom. Visit shop.freetalklive.com. It's shop.freetalklive.com. News from news.bitcoin.com. U.S. Postal Service files a patent for new blockchain voting method. Warren Buffett changes his opinion on gold. Maybe Bitcoin is next. $6 billion Acon cryptocurrency city underway. Former Prudential CEO says now's the time to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin.com is your source for getting started with cryptocurrencies. Getting a wallet, buying Bitcoin Cash, mining, and all the latest cryptocurrency news at news.bitcoin.com. Subscribe to Bitcoin.com's YouTube channel too.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. LRN.FM now has a Discord. Discord is a free text and voice chat platform, and we now have our own server with a bunch of channels at discord.lrn.fm. You can join other listeners as they chat about various things during our live shows, or anytime, day or night. Discord software is available cross-platform, so you can have it on whatever device you want and take your chats anywhere. Join our Discord at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Free Talk Live. Dial in, toll free, bring up whatever you want. Our number, 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We're going to check in with the crazy world of the colleges here in just a moment. We'll get into that with you tonight, though. It's Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Tyler.
And want to invite you to Bitcoin.com. That is a great site to go and learn the basics about Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, cryptocurrency in general. If you haven't gotten started into that world yet, then you can go and get started right now at Bitcoin.com. It's a variety of free features on the site, and that's one of them. Just kind of learn the basics at Bitcoin.com. Also, they've got a great news section for those of you that want to keep up to date with what's going on in the world of cryptocurrency today over at news.bitcoin.com. That's news.bitcoin.com. So, Tyler, you're currently in one of these colleges. You're going to Keene State here in the area.
I'm sorry.
Thankfully, though,
I'm surviving.
You're taking the remote option, so you don't have to go and get tested for COVID twice a week or whatever the ridiculous
Right, and that is about what it's at now.
requirements. And, of course, they're cracking down left and right on students and, not allowed to party, not allowed to have fun, got to wear a mask everywhere you go.
And you're still paying the same tuition as if you were going to school like normal.
What are they doing to the kid who doesn't study and fails his COVID test? Is it like, are they like packing them off into a
I think you get
hospital
quarantined.
or a nursing home?
They just quarantine them in one of the dorms.
In the dorm room?
They've already told people that they reserve the right to come in and inspect your dorms whenever they want.
Well,
and
that's a standing rule with the college.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's part of the reason they have dorms, I think.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like most of the kids are kind of over it and they're just trying to get through their time at school. They're mostly upset about the money, but
like
a lot
prison.
of them, just the fastest way out is forward. But
75 nights and a wake up.
Yeah, there are a lot of them though that are totally indoctrinated into the mentality, and they think it's all for safety and it's super important. We're doing the right thing, and it's just it's kind of disheartening to me.
No, just believe what you're told.
Well, in Michigan, so here's what's going on from Detroit News. The University of Michigan Dearborn officially issued an apology Wednesday after creating segregated online student quote cafes for white people and those of color.
Online cafe?
Yeah.
What the hell is an online cafe?
That's a great
That's
question.
that's the kind of cafe you go to when you're a coward and you're afraid to leave the house.
Yeah, it's an introvert cafe, I think. I don't think there's any coffee being served, but I think it's just a nice way of calling an online space something that's not a forum or a chat room. But yeah, so, they go on to talk about it. So it's 2 virtual events were held Tuesday and were advertised as, quote, non-POC cafe, people of color, and another as it looks like it's pronounced Biopic Cafe. That's Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. BIOPIC.
Okay, so written a different way, it would be whites only.
Right. Yeah, whites only and coloreds. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's
wow.
I love this, right? So to me, it's funny because this leftist ideology of inclusion and of making people feel important.
It's come full circle.
Right, exactly. We're full circle back to segregation because that is the logical conclusion. When you create a safe space for people of color and you're all about inclusivity, then white people need a space too. And then bam, we're right back where we started.
What about the space where I can just be with anyone who wants to be there? What about that space?
That's what I want. Where's the rainbow space?
The public forum, the public
where
square.
Can you just come as you are?
Yeah.
Right.
So the non-People of Color Cafe is a space for students that do not identify as persons of color to gather and to discuss their experience as
now
students
when they
on
say
campus.
non-people of color, does that mean that we're non-people but we have a color, or that we're people but we don't have a color?
Well, what I like about this too is that non-people of color could mean anyone that doesn't want to identify as a person of color. If you're an Indian person or a black person,
But
you walk in, it's like, I don't identify with color.
I
It's
just
like, cool.
identify as human.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay, I like that.
Yep. So it says, feel free to drop in and discuss your experiences as non-persons of color and hopefully brainstorm solutions to common issues with the non-POC community.
Can I just drink some damn coffee and not talk about all these race things? Because race
you can't
is
have
to
any
me the
coffee. You'd
least
have to take your mask off.
Well, it's like when I was a kid, it was all about melting pot, right? Like people were supposed to come to America and
it's
assimilate
beautiful.
to American
Beautiful thing.
values, and we're supposed to, move forward together as a nation. But instead, now it's like, no, you can't. It's not a melting pot. We have to recognize that race exists and there's people that identify with it. But if you're a white person, you should feel bad about that. And
again, what is it when they call, what do they call it? Cultural appropriation, when you like wear an Indian outfit for Halloween or something like that. They get really mad.
They're appropriating the Southern culture by bringing in segregation.
I've never met an Irish person that gets mad about St. Patrick's Day when everyone dresses up like leprechauns.
They're usually drunk.
Yeah.
So
well, and the thing is I don't think,
where that's when Irishmen are the happiest.
I don't think it's actually,
say as an Irishman.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually indigenous people that are upset if you dress up like Pocahontas for Halloween. I don't think there's an Indian person out there that's getting really upset about it. It's these woke, quote unquote woke liberal college leftists, the ones that go to Ivy League schools that try and see everything through this like neo-Marxist paradigm where race exists, but it only exists for people that aren't within, their confined system of hierarchy, right? What they believe are the oppressors, because, let's be honest, anyone in the position of authority or power is going to be an oppressor. It doesn't matter what the color of their skin is.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
why people can't see that? I don't.
Well, and so the funny thing is the article goes on to talk about how the school immediately went back on what they did, and they realized, and people are like, you guys didn't think this enough through. And it's like, well, hold on now. The logical conclusion, if you're about inclusivity, is to give everybody their own space. That's the logical conclusion, and that's what should tell people to key in and go, maybe this ideology they're subscribing to isn't founded in logic. Maybe it's just founded on nonsense and feelings. Yeah, because it's like, the minute that you cried racism because of something you were doing with good intentions, then, well, the system that you came up with probably isn't working, and it's probably nonsense.
And what I would like to see after the breakup of the United States, if it comes, is I would like there to be, when it comes. Yeah, that's true. None of them last forever. Right. But what I would like to see is both the black separatists and the white separatists have places where they could separate.
Yeah, go for it. Sure.
But I would want the most of the land, and I think most of the land would be a place where anybody could go regardless of race. And in those places, the nice thing about the first part is that you don't have to worry about running into the supremacists or the separatists, because you let the separatists separate, and then when you find a supremacist, you just deport them to live with the separatists.
Yeah, if there is some kind of balkanization coming down the line, my hope would be that, people migrate to areas where people share their values. That's what brought me to New Hampshire.
They can do.
Yeah.
That's the best thing. If you love socialism, get to California or get to Washington.
But if you love liberty, get up to New Hampshire. Yeah. And we don't care what color you are. And if you love liberty, you're our brother.
And if you love telling people what to do as far as your religion is concerned and getting in their business about, what they believe or what they're putting in their body, get down to Texas, get down to, one of the southern states. Right. Get to one of these red states. I think that's the best thing that people can do is find their tribe and go to it. And now it's more important than it's ever been. Luke Rudowski was just visiting us last night. He's one of the guys, the founders behind We Are Change, fairly popular YouTube channel. He finally made the move to New Hampshire, and he explained that this thing was a wake-up call for him. He realized he's been stuck in the city, and New York is not going to get more free, and California is not going to get more free.
Oh, God, no.
And you got to do something. Staying there is futile.
Yep. 100%.
So it's not. There's nothing wrong with retreating strategically to regroup.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about.
And to reinforce your allies, because we need your help, bros.
That's right. 855-450 free like freedom. You can go to move.shiresociety.com, learn more about the Shire Society and migrating to New Hampshire. If you love liberty, more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live is aired on nearly 200 radio stations throughout the week, and we've been doing this for almost 18 years. You can call in any evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern to talk about whatever's on your mind. Sure, you can waste your time on Facebook and reach dozens of surly posters, or you can call in with your issue and reach 3 surly hosts. Oh, and nearly 500,000 weekly listeners. The number is 1-855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, as in freedom. Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
If you're looking for work, or even if you're not, here's an innocent mistake you really want to avoid. Never return calls before listening to your voicemail. Your wireless phone sends calls you didn't answer into voicemail, and it shows you phone numbers for calls you missed. Important. Don't call back callers you missed until you have first listened to your messages. Otherwise, you frustrate people who bothered to leave messages by asking them to repeat a message they just left as your voicemail greeting instructed them to. If you're a job applicant, this alone could be a deal killer. And even if you're not, there are few things you can convey to someone that are as fundamentally maddening as, "I didn't hear you." With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Free Talk Live.
My father was a police officer most of my life. He went to prison for police brutality. And my father was the chief.
What was he like at home with you when you were growing up? Was he violent with you?
He was never with me. He practically ignored me. Actually, I never really had a relationship with him, but extremely violent to my mother. He beat her up practically every day of my life.
Oh, my gosh.
He never touched me or my sisters or my brothers.
Did he have a drinking problem?
No, he's never drank alcohol in his
Wow,
entire
so
life.
violent without alcohol. Very interesting.
I lived in a very small town in West Virginia, and my sisters and I and my brothers, we could do whatever we wanted. There were no laws for us. I could drive as fast as I wanted.
You said that he abused your mother, beat her frequently. Did she ever leave him?
Yes, numerous times, but she couldn't do anything because there was no help for her. There were no police to call to help her. There was no help for her because my father was very well connected. He knew everybody in the state.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can dial in, toll free, bring up whatever you want. Our number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. With you in the studio tonight, by the way, it's Ian. Oops, sorry, I forgot your microphone there. Try that again.
Hey, they're always trying to silence me. Just nobody. Nobody's here.
And
nobody
Tyler
cares.
And by the way, I do want you to know about ForkFest 2021. The dates, you can mark them right now on your calendar, June 28th through July 4th in 2021. You can also contact Rogers Campground and go ahead and book those dates right away. You don't have to wait until next year. If you know you want to go to ForkFest, if you're bummed that you missed it this year, or you came this year and you know how great it was, then you're going to want to come to year number 5. Which is, again, June 28th through July 4th, 2021. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than with people who also care about real freedom here in the Shire. And you get to create what you want at ForkFest. It is a decentralized libertarian camping festival. Decentralized meaning there's no central authority besides the park owner. So there's no
nobody's in charge.
Yeah, there's no bureaucracy. There's no king. There's no board of directors. Or there's no organizer. Each individual organizes their own experience. So if you want to do something to create a thing for other people to do, there was a tent that had like a poker table every single night. That was a thing that somebody put together, and then somebody else brought the table, and they made it happen. And then there was people who were selling food, and there was a live musical performance by Aria and Captain Kickass and Michael Gordon. They did the first ever live music. It was just an amazing week, and it can be even better with more people. So come on out and join us. You can go to forkfest.party and learn more about the event. That's an unofficial website, and there's a link to a Telegram chat room and the Forkfest forums there. So check it out.
And I'll tell you what, there's been one thing missing from Forkfest.
What do we miss?
Every year. What we miss, we don't have any sex lurkers. So if
well, that you know of.
Maybe
they didn't patronize you.
There were some strippers at Porkfest this year.
I mean, maybe not. I suspect because it's something I talk about that it's something I would hear about, even if not directly from them.
So you're hoping the sex workers will pitch you, is what you're saying.
I am hoping so. So if you're a sex worker and you were at Forkfest and I missed you, send me a pic and I'll be sure to catch you next time.
Anyone's a sex worker if the money's right.
The other thing that I think,
it's true.
Well, and that's true. The other thing that I think we're missing this year, it happened only one night, and that was to have a fairly large bonfire. There was one campsite down towards the party tent area that did a bonfire, but they only did it that one night, and so it wasn't ongoing long enough to really capture a large crowd. And if there was something that went on every single night like they do during the Porcupine Freedom Festival, I think there'd be a lot of people that would attend that. And there was some talk, there's usually oh, we should go get a cord of wood and we should do that. Well,
but it's too late
did.
that day.
Yeah.
You got to do that in advance.
Yeah, you got to plan that out.
Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword having Forkfest right after Porkfest, because on one hand, it's convenient that you can roll right into the next one, but on the other hand, a lot of people are burnt out after a whole week at Porkfest.
It's true.
You got to be hardcore to do both weeks, but you can also just do 1 week and come to Forkfest. And,
true.
Yeah, it almost seems like it would be worth taking a week off in between. The only problem is the people who come here specifically for that, where do they go?
Right. If you're out of state or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. It would be nice if, maybe we should stress the weekend of Forkfest, like the closing weekend of Forkfest more, and get people to, say, hey, you need to go home for a couple days. Go home for a couple days.
That's what they did.
Come on back. And a lot of people did do that.
The people that lived up here, they had to go back to work. They went to work during the week, and they came back up on Thursday or Friday, and they spent the weekend at Rogers for Forkfest. So everybody's going to do something differently, and that's why, the choices are good, to give people options. Because some people do prefer the Porcupine Freedom Festival. It is a little more on the family-friendly side. There's more structure to the things that you can do there. And for those that prefer the more destructed version, Forkfest is there, and it's an option, and it's not going away.
Yeah, I mean, for example, Porkfest frowns on titties, whereas we at Forkfest, we believe that titties are one of the wonderful things that makes the world go round.
Amen.
So I got a little piece here from PJ Media, which from what I understand is a right-wing leaning site, but it caught my eye because when you talk about, or when people are involved in these protests that sometimes become violent, sometimes result in, opportunists who want to come in and destroy things, setting buildings on fire, terrible destruction, of course, has happened in these places. Sometimes these people will excuse their own behavior by saying, oh, well, they've got insurance.
That's so ridiculous.
No, don't worry. We can steal everything we want. They've got insurance. It's totally fine. We're just reappropriating these goods. The insurance will cover it. And so there's kind of an interesting piece about that, because what I said was, well, what if you destroy so much that the insurance company goes out of business, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if they can't pay?
They just won't cover it.
All the claims.
Well, there's more to it than that, because insurance companies frequently don't cover damages from war, revolt, insurrection, and riot. That's the thing.
That's like the catch-all.
Yeah, and so there's a little bit about this here in this story, and again, PJmedia.com reporting, Jim Treacher writing, ever since a multiracial group of Minneapolis cops kneeled on George Floyd's neck as he died 3 months ago.
The word they were looking for was knelt.
They have, it's a blog. There have been riots across American cities every single night. And they say, and our first moral, ethical, and intellectual betters in the media, at first, our moral, ethical, and intellectual betters in the media just gaslighted us about it. They looked right into their cameras and told us it wasn't happening. It's not actual violence, the bad kind of violence. It's mostly peaceful protest, they said. But the people in the luxury neighborhood are still there in the ruins. He says he cites some CNN reporter.
Let me rebut that one thing that he said just a little bit and point out that mostly these protests have been peaceful in that supposedly 6% of them have turned violent. Now, that's compared to 0% of my 420 rallies turning violent. But then again, they're not shooting us either. So it's not all of these things go violent. Most of them do seem to stay on the side of the light.
Sure, but that doesn't get the cameras. That doesn't get the video coverage. It doesn't get the tune-ins.
Well, I think it's really interesting, too, that all the violence and the rioting and the looting is all happening to small businesses. It's like, why aren't you looting Amazon? Why aren't you looting Google? Why aren't you...
Well, you can't loot a website.
Right, that's fair.
Okay, it's not physically there. What's still there is the small business.
Well, if they rob Target,
have they burned down any Walmarts? Because
they have robbed. I mean, Target was in the early days. I remember that one from Minneapolis. They went in there and destroyed one of the Targets there.
Yep.
I mean, there was video footage that actually Rob, the guy who hangs out with Vermin Supreme. I don't know. You've met Rob, I'm sure.
He hates Rod Weber. He hates me a little bit.
Okay. Well, anyway, he was there at that Target, and he got video footage of some guy in a car drives into the Target.
Woo!
And then just starts peeling around, like doing loop-de-loops inside this Target.
That's crazy.
It's just crazy stuff. Yeah. And this was, of course, after a ton of people had gone in there and like lit things on fire and stole stuff. So anyway, they cite this guy from MSNBC. His name is Al Valishi, and he, of course, is covering for the riots that were going on. And he says, then Valishi went back to his luxurious home. But the people in that neighborhood, the one where the buildings are being burned down, are still there in the ruins. Valishi and his ilk don't care what happens to them because it doesn't fit liberals' view of the world, and it's bad for their preferred political party. They don't care what happens to people like this Minneapolis resident after rioters destroyed her neighborhood. And then he puts a clip of a black lady in talking about just the destruction around her house and such. You have the right to be angry about the death of a black man in police custody, but why is she being punished for it? Doesn't her life matter too? How is that justice for George Floyd? Aha, exclaims the liberal in good standing. Allow me to retort. Maybe you rednecks have never heard of a little thing called insurance? It's just property. It's just stuff. It can be replaced. George Floyd's life can't. Well, about that. And then from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, they give some interesting examples. Quote, one day after rioters destroyed the Sports Dome retail complex in St. Paul, a construction crew hired by the city knocked the building down because it was dangerously unstable. Then the city presented the property owners with a $140,000 bill for what it cost to haul away the debris.
Oh.
We were really upset about that, said the property owner, whose insurance policy covers a maximum of $25,000 in demolition costs.
Wow. Man.
And there's another example. We'll share that with you coming up here in moments. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. You can join us here on the radio. It's Free Talk Live.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
Attention radio listeners, if you're concerned about the coming chaos after the November elections, this will be an extremely important message. Here's why. No matter what the outcome in November, catastrophic social upheaval is a very real possibility. Here's why this is important. Listen, we all know that silver and gold have been historic hedges against the uncertain waves of social chaos and unstable currencies. But did you know that there's been times in the past, during times of extreme hardship, when Americans put another store of value above even silver and gold? It's true, open pollinated seeds have been and could very well be the ultimate store of value in the coming hard times ahead. Go to survivalseedbank.com to get heirloom seeds below wholesale. Visit survivalseedbank.com this week and get hundreds of dollars in free bonuses. Beat the coming chaos, beat rising food prices, but above all, don't wait. Beat the crowds by claiming your own Survival Seed Bank today.
With a MechTech carbine conversion unit, you can turn an XD family Glock or 1911 handgun into a carbine rifle in seconds and have it shipped right to your door, no FFL required. Now, MechTech is excited to announce our pistol carbine conversion unit. More compact with a 12-inch barrel and an arm brace, proving once again that MechTech is the world's most versatile handgun accessory. For a limited time, go to handgunconversions.com. That's handgunconversions.com and use coupon code RADIO to receive $35 off any carbine purchase.
The political world is a maddening cesspool of corruption and lies. Nobody tells the truth. Nobody keeps campaign promises. Nobody obeys the Constitution. Nobody puts the people first. How can we ever escape this web of tyranny? Vote for nobody.
Hi. My name is Nobody. I'm running for governor of New Hampshire because nobody knows how to live your life better than you do, and nobody deserves that kind of power. I want to put you back in control of your money, your lifestyle, your work, your body, and your life. Nobody should rule you but you. New Hampshire convicts many people of so-called crimes that should never have been prosecuted. If elected, I will pardon every victimless crime in New Hampshire history. This includes drug, gambling, prostitution, gun, and driving offenses. Nobody should have a criminal record when they have not harmed anybody.
Wouldn't it be nice to have nobody telling you what to do? Learn more at electnobody.com. electnobody.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You bring us what you want. In these remaining moments, we have enough time for you. With you in the studio, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Tyler.
And also, I do want to invite you to our satellite fundraiser, and I want to thank some of the folks who did contribute within the last week that I've been talking about this. So what is it? Well, we have satellite channels, and we don't talk about them too often on the air, so I wanted to start doing that just to bring it to folks' attention, because I feel like it's something that I'd like to see people get behind, because honestly, I've been having second thoughts about it. We've got the renewal date coming up next year for the satellite channels, and it's a 3-year contract, so it's a big, pretty big commitment. So if people are behind the idea, then we'll keep it going. But as of the start of this promotion, which we started last week, we only had about 15% that had been raised over the last 3 years. So only about 15% of our monthly satellite bill is actually covered by donations. And so what I'm doing is I'm offering doubling the donations to the satellite. So the Shire Free Church will match every contribution to this fundraiser in the hopes that we can not only continue the current satellite channels we have. One of them is over Sub-Saharan Africa, which is, by the way, the least internet connected of the entire world. That's the place where you're least likely to encounter internet connections. And so Sub-Saharan Africa and North and Central America, so we've got 2 satellites over those areas of the world. We could have more. So if this fundraiser raises enough money, and again, it's being matched, then we can add a channel. We can add one over Europe and the Middle East. There's one satellite that covers all of that, including North Africa. But we would let our donators decide which area of the world we should focus
on.
on.
That would be donors.
Donors, yes, thank you. Or maybe it's not that interesting to people and they don't think it's worth supporting, in which case maybe we'll take 1 or 2 channels off the air completely when their contracts run out. So if you want to help us with that, you can go to our satellite fundraiser Patreon over at fund.lrn.fm. That's a short link that'll get you there. That's fund.lrn.fm, and it's $2 a month or whatever you want to donate. So thank you in advance.
And I'll tell you what, if you're in sub-Saharan Africa and you're listening to this, get me an email at nobody@electnobody.com, and I'll donate $10 to the African to the African transponder to keep you listening.
Well, I know that there are
to
people
a reasonable
out there.
point. I'm not a wealthy man. I can't cope if like a million of you call me, but I'll definitely publicize it and people will donate.
And we have heard from some of our African listeners over time, so it's not like they don't exist. We know that they do. But you don't get a whole lot of feedback,
right?
But then again, they don't have a whole lot of internet either.
Yeah,
so,
that's a concern.
One more example here of how this excuse that some of the rioters make. Well, they've got insurance. It's no problem. We can burn everything and they'll get a paycheck. Well, maybe you don't understand insurance. You've heard about insurance, but you've probably never actually had any. Certainly not commercial insurance or insurance on a building or whatever.
Well, leftists are very unlikely to have any business experience.
Correct.
Because that fixes them.
Yeah, right. So as another example, we're talking about these demolition costs. So the Sports Dome retail complex in St. Paul was so badly damaged, they knocked the whole thing down because it was unstable. The city did. And the city hired a construction crew, then gave the owners a $140,000 bill for this. Well, their demolition costs were only covered up to $25,000 in the insurance policy that they had. Like dozens of other investors, this is from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, whose properties were severely damaged in the May riots, the Kim family was stunned to discover that the money it would collect from its insurance company for demolition won't even come close to the actual cost of doing the job. Most policies limit reimbursement to $25,000 to $50,000, but contractors...
This is why God invented rooftop Koreans.
Yeah.
But contractors have been submitting bids of $200,000 to $300,000. So we're talking about 10 times, in some cases, the amount covered by insurance.
Yeah.
In many cases, the price of the work is not much lower than the actual value of the property. So if that's what happens, if your insurance coverage only covers $25,000 to $50,000, but the construction companies are saying it's going to cost you $200,000 to $300,000 to do this work, you're done.
Yeah, imagine the backlash if like an anti-mask protest or like just any like a gun rights protest erupted in violence, and like their argument was, well, it was only a couple of the protesters that turned into rioters. The media would lose their minds. They would call them all like deranged fringe
murderers,
right nutwings. Yeah, murderers.
That's certainly true. But let's say that there were 100 pro-gun protests across the nation, and 6 of them turned into riots. Would you say that the movement was mostly peaceful?
No.
If 6 of them turned into riots out of 100.
I know, but still, the phrase itself.
49-51 would be mostly peaceful,
right. Well,
I would say.
Sure, I mean, by technicality, but that doesn't mean that the entire thing is mostly peaceful. I feel like that's just a way to change the conversation. Like, if one person is violent in a protest, then the protest is violent. Especially, the gun rights thing. Gun rights activists wouldn't even let that happen. You know what I mean? They keep each other well regulated. Yeah, they put a stop to it, and they understand why it's bad.
And some of the folks have stopped some of the rioters.
Sure,
like there's video of that happening.
Right.
Yeah, most of the Black Lives Matter supporters that I talk to, including the black ones, they're not supporting the rioting. They understand the rioting because
many of whom are white privileged kids, by the way.
And also a lot of the rioters are white. It's like the kids that came after Kenosha Kyle.
There's an article,
were all white.
Yeah, there's an article in the New York Post about a bunch of these, what they described as privileged white rioters.
Yeah.
So let's go to the phone calls here. We got Alex in Washington. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi. I was just calling in because I had a question.
Yeah.
And a little bit of background on my question. I have this brother who he thinks he's, all libertarian. And I'm pretty sure he's listening to this right now. He loves your show.
Okay.
And but he was talking to me about how, drugs should just be completely allowed and yada yada. And I kind of have, I argued with him a little bit and said that I think, what you do in your home is what you do in your home, except for when you have kids, because you're putting people at risk. So I just want to know, from a libertarian standpoint, when do you draw a line on, a free-for-all with the drugs and having freedom to do that kind of stuff in your own home?
That's a great question. It's definitely a great question, because then you have to start to balance. It's like, well, who's important? Is it your individual sovereignty, or do your kids matter more? Should we allow people to have the freedom to the point that they abuse their kids with that freedom? That's a great
the thing.
question.
Who decides what is child abuse as far as what parents are willing to do? Some parents want to spank their children.
Right.
I consider that to be abuse. But I'm not willing to go and kidnap somebody's kids because they're spanking their kids. However, there may be a point at which I would be willing to kidnap somebody's kids, like if they were torturing their children in the backyard, and everybody knew about it.
Needs to do
Same thing with a dog or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mostly look at it from a Darwinian point of view, which is, and I kind of take the same position on abortion, that if you're going to kill your own children, you should be removed from the gene pool. And the thing is, killing your own children actually accomplishes that. But I'm not saying that it should be something that's allowed. I'm saying that to some extent it's self-punishing, at least from a Darwinian point of view. That said, if somebody is causing ongoing pain to their children over a long basis, and I'm walking by the house and I hear some kid yelling, "Hey, Mister, help!" Well, at that point, I can't take that view anymore. So because I'm not going to deny somebody in need in general. So it's really it's really a tough.
It's not easy.
So
Tough
both of you. Yeah, it is a tough call. Both of your responses, though, play into what I think on the matter, which is this isn't a legal issue. There doesn't need to be laws in place saying that we can take kids away at this point, given this set of criteria or whatever.
All you have to do is look at how bad that's gone with foster homes.
True.
I mean, being even worse in a lot of cases.
That's a horrible system.
And most of these kids that they find that are being trafficked have passed through
foster
that
homes
system.
And stuff. Yeah. Well, and what I would say is the answer to the problem is that you need to have a sense of community, and you need to have a community that engages with each other and interacts with each other, because it's the good people within that community that are going to prevent those kind of atrocities from happening to a child, right? Like when those kids go to school and their friends see bruises on them, or the teachers see bruises on them, right? People need to be able to talk about that. And you don't need a government to prevent that. What you need is love, and you need a community that communicates. And then that problem will be solved by the virtue within the community. I mean, all three of us agree that if there was a kid that was in trouble because his parents were torturing them, we would do something to put a stop to it. And you don't have to say, well, it's their kid, it's none of my business. At a certain point, other people's pain does become your business.
Yep, that's true. Alex, I wish we had more time for you, but call in another night if you want to continue the conversation. We're out of it for tonight, but I definitely appreciate hearing from you, and we will continue tomorrow. We got
Thanks
more
for
to
calling,
talk
Alex.
about then. Yeah, absolutely. And open phones every night here, so it's always good to get on sooner or earlier in the show. That way we can definitely have time for you. So join us online in the meantime between now and then, freetalklive.com. Check out Nobody, electnobody.com.
Yeehaw!
We'll see you tomorrow.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had got involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock is next after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Fires raging in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News.